Hello! Let's see if you can actually hear me. Can you hear me? Yes, you can. Okay, good. I had a Windows update, so that fucks everything up. How's everything going? Welcome. My name is Paul, Berserker 1, Batman Shelley, your humble host and space bartender at the Astropub, your space bar at the end of the universe. Sit back, relax, enjoy the show. We got a good one for you, and I need a haircut. Desperately need a haircut. Sounds good? Awesome. We are still in doldrums, but we did have 4.9 release, so we'll do a little bit of a watch about the Basher, and we'll talk a little bit about the Basher. I'll do a capsule about the Basher. It's first look at it. I'm going to go on a bit of a rant about the Basher, because this is not specifically something that I am concerned about in the well, it's something I'm concerned about, but it's not something that it's like it's not going to sound like what it's going to sound like something that I'm not trying to say. Because what it'll sound like is me saying, CIG, start making games, stop making ships, which is not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, if ships are going to be your game, you need to make sure that the ships fit within a role that is understandable by both you and the audience. I'd only be interested in Grays if it could choose my own kit bash parts. The damage wing for entry cockpit was silly to me. It's very artistic. One of my problems with CIG's design philosophy and ethos is that they want every item, every location, every ship to come with its own story. Because when you're doing something like Squadron or other sort of general video game sort of things, that sort of thing helps. To have a location like an apartment you purchased in Starfield, have come with stuff that's part of the apartment, makes sense because it's part of the gameplay. But Star Citizen desperately needs blank slates. And the idea that they have a broken wing, and the way they described it as being like, oh yeah, the wing is broken because of damage or something else. It's like, it's a way of getting into the ship. Just make a cutout. You can make it look janky and still look like a cutout. Paul, do Banu try to market a ship having a crane? Lol, you want crane? Crane good. I don't know. The Basher fits inside your Carrack? It fits into the top of the Carrack? Interesting. You're going to walk around inside the game and play around with it a little bit. Oh, you want me to do the Banu? Oh, I do my best. Crane, human like Crane. Crane is effective, so get Basher. Basher has Crane. What Crane for? Crane. It does Crane thing. Friend. I saw that lever action rifle and I have a healthy need for it. My problem with the lever action rifle is that they have a lever action rifle and they still don't have a cowboy hat. No cowboy hat, no sombrero, The closest thing they have is that sort of like wide flat brim fashion hat. The only thing that matters is CIG or the ships being sold. I disagree. Ships being sold is important, but I feel like, as usual, knowledge, you're coming in a little too hot from the perspective of CIG is Satan itself. Because CIG also wants to keep those people who are making ships on board, because those people get poached frequently. Because if you can make a cool looking spaceship for a video game, you can make a cool looking thing for pretty much any other industry. And Hollywood pays more money than video games. Yes. So they want to make sure that those people who are making the ships are making cool ships, and they get to have their artistic expression. That's literally it. The ships are the game. Ships are the game and are the return. Yeah, but the concept of just like CIG only makes ships to sell them, and the only reason they exist is to justify the money from the game, it borders on the whole like CIG isn't actually here to make the game, they're just here to make money, and they don't give a fuck about the game, which is, I don't think is true. I think they do care. They're just mismanaged. The ships are a problem, but the ships are a problem and the solution to the same problem. But CIG doesn't want to do that. Because, like, I'm not going to go on the rant quite yet, but the basic idea of going on and discussing this is something we've already talked about before, which is, what are the classifications of every ship? What makes each ship, what makes the Basher a light fighter? What does the Basher, the Mustang Delta, the Gladius, the, what's the other light fighters? The Wolf, what do they all have in common? The Arrow? Yeah. Like, what do they all have in common? Yeah, but starter ships are small. Why aren't starter ships light fighters? Like, the Delta is considered a light fighter, but the Alpha isn't. The Bulldog has size 2 guns, and it's also small. Is that a light fighter now? No, it's a snub. What makes a snub different from a light fighter? Cargo space. The Shiv has, or the Basher has a cargo space, but like the Avenger doesn't. Lack of quantum. So the 85X is a snub, but it has a quantum. So is an 85X a light fighter then, and not a snub? The Pisces is a snub. It has a quantum. This is my problem, is there is no defining characteristics. The jump drive, the Pisces has a jump drive. And size. We just said the Bulldog is small. So is the Bulldog a light fighter, or is it a snub? That's the answer. What makes something a light fighter? Because CIG says it said so. And that's a problem. Like, that at its core, I really need a fucking haircut. My hair is all over the place. At its core, the problem, the 85X doesn't, but the Pisces does. Because CIG says so, and they have no idea what they're talking about because God forbid someone feels bad, so make everyone feel bad. Yeah, I know. I just need to get my hair in line. But here's the problem with that, is that if a player doesn't know what makes the difference between a light and a medium fighter, like for instance, if I said Buccaneer, how many of you would think that's a light fighter? The 85X doesn't have a jump drive, but has a quantum drive, GQ. Yes, the Pisces was originally the snub ship for the Carrack, and the 85X was the snub ship for the 890 jump. It is an interceptor, but it is a medium interceptor. I ordered a Whopper and got a chili dog. Yes, because they classified it in their when they did the big master modes. They called it a medium intercept. I don't know. CIG has never explained their classification system or why it exists. Can we discuss how the crane doesn't fit the Junker idea at all? The Junker is functional over form. The crane achieves nothing, so it shouldn't be there. I think it's supposed to be a crude reticle. It's supposed to be a sight. Because if you look at the end of the crane, it has a little hoop at the bottom, and it's just about at eye level of the pilot. So it's supposed to be a cheap reticle. Yeah, iron sights. Do they actually work? Probably not, because it's all cosmetic. And that's the problem. It goes by feel. This sort of, we always have a chance to, we're never afraid of a better idea mentality effectively means that they make the ships first and balance them last. So as a result, you all could purchase a ship for real hard spendy money that would eventually become worthless. Like, you could get super excited about this ship coming out and it's like, oh yeah, I spent money, it's just really cool, it's awesome, I can't wait to be a space tow truck driver, or to be an ambulance driver, or to launch snub shut ships out of my thing, or to have to do science in my ship. And as a result, and then when the game actually comes out, or the game starts to actually come together as a game, you're left with a ship that doesn't do any of the things you thought it was. The Ares is a good example of that, yes. Yes, and it's a bad design. Like, that sort of thing shouldn't be happening this level for CIG. CIG should have had classification systems already in place so that every ship feels the way, or like has a reason for being in the classification, and that classification has some definition. But that requires design before production. You know, gameplay as a theory, and like applied theory, but theory, game design before ship design. Because once you have the game design and you understand what the brackets are, then the ship designs can fill those brackets to fit those gameplay parameters. Right now it's fucking inverted. The ships get made and then they have to shove it into a game that they haven't made yet. They're flying from the seat of their pants. But they also made their own. They've made their own bed, in the sense that they can't stop selling ships. If they stop selling ships, they lose all their money. So they have to keep selling ships in order to keep making money, in order to keep paying people, which means ships have to be made. And because it would take time to sit down and actually come up with a classification system using all the ships that already exist, it's more time intensive to go back and fix the problems that they've already created than it would be to just keep going. It's terrible business management, but it's the cycle that they push themselves into. So now they have to ride this cycle out. Hey, this poor Pete. They need to do something, and there are methods that they could do, but they won't do it because they're too afraid. That, like, there's a mentality at CIG that's pervasive, which is, this has always worked. Why do we change it? They're making money and people are playing the game. Why should they bother changing? And my argument is always because you want people to be playing the game in 2 years. So if you want people to play a game that's finished, that is a video game, you need to think with that in mind. And that's what I thought 1.0 was all supposed to be about. That the 1.0, the push to 1.0 was supposed to be about, let's make this a game. Let's take this idea, this imagination, and turn it into reality. Isn't CR known for poor management? To be fair to CR, video games are notoriously poorly managed because the amount of money you pay somebody to manage a video game is not enough to justify a manager. Like the best project managers in any industry or in all industries are like that job title or that job skill is applicable in lots of different places because it's basically people wrangling. It's people wrangling and managing like timetables and stuff like that. Producers. And that sort of job, because it's applicable other places, you can get paid a lot more money if you're really good at it in other positions than you can in video games. Like, you have to be passionate about video games to do that. So as a result, video games just generally have worse product management, production and management in general. And this isn't just like it's your opinion. It's like, this is a common complaint I've heard amongst devs who've worked at every industry or every major AAA development house that I've stumbled across. They complain about it openly in like social media all the time. They love to talk about how shit video game management is. It's the reason why timetables get longer. It's why why budgets are bloating. One of the reasons why Xbox is getting absolutely hollowed out from the center is because it took somebody who was not a gamer or not from a gaming background to come in and go, this is stupid. You guys are being significantly inefficient with all of this. We need to start cutting back. And of course, Ashama is going to be the bad guy because somebody has to be, because Xbox is fucking flailing. But doesn't CIG have a lot of passionate people? Passionate people doesn't make good management. Passionate people just means people will do what they have to do. And that's the worst part. So as you're saying, we need non-passionate people for management with logical thinking? Not necessarily. I don't think CIG could get the people, because one of the things that somebody at that level would have to do, they'd have to go to Chris Roberts and say, we can't do this. This is what we can do. This is what we can do. We can't do this. And I don't imagine anyone would be able to survive long at CIG telling Chris no. This is his project. He approves literally everything in the game. That's not saying Chris is some sort of like egomaniac where only thing he says goes. But again, it's hard to get away from if you're that close to your babies and it is your project and everyone knows it's your project. It's very difficult for somebody to stand up to the boss and go, you're wrong. Don't they need it though? Hell yeah, they do. But like, it's not going to happen. This is the reason why they only change when there's a dramatic community backlash. Almost certainly it's because the community backlash reaches Chris's ears and he's finally hearing people tell him no. And he goes, wait, why are they saying no? And actually looks into it. Yeah, the Chris, but I want to go back and pick up my coffee cup for 6 months from now. Good idea. Cool concept. Shitty execution. I don't care if it's inefficient. Let the artists art their way. What if I care if the corpos are taking the wheel down the scope, which is what Xbox and PlayStation did. What CIG is doing. They don't care if the company fails in 5 years. The line goes up this quarter. The patch gets pushed. End of line. But he's never really fully finished a game, right? No, he has. Chris has done many games. The first Wing Commander, he did several games before that. He did Strike Commander, Wing Commander 2, the entire Wing Commander series up to like the last one or two of them were Chris Roberts games. He released Wing Commander Privateer, which is sort of the precursor to like Freelancer and Starlancer. Like Chris doesn't make games. It's just in the times when Chris was making those games, he wasn't in charge of the company. There was somebody above him saying, Chris, this is the deadline, get it done. Now, the last game he made before leaving the video game industry, he was literally taken off the project because he was over budget, over time, and Microsoft was like, bro, we need to release this game. And Chris kept saying, no, I need more time, I need more. And so they removed him from his position and basically released what they had. The people who create the corporation are often the worst people to actually run it, usually. But you need, there's a lot of issues at CIG, but I always use the ships as the example because the ships are the example. Star Citizen, at its core, is a ship game. Everything is done for and around ships. And as a result, because like, clearly, how many of you like spaceships? I would be shocked if anybody in this chat was like, I hate space. EA bought Origin, not Microsoft. Chris spun off from Origin, or from EA, from Origin and EA, to make Digital Anvil, and Digital Anvil was purchased by Microsoft. But like at its core, Star Citizen is a ship game. What Chris and his team realized early on in this game, this development, or this development, was that people liked the ships more than they necessarily wanted the game. And because Chris is also a giant aviation nerd, he was like, fuck yeah, let's make some cool ships. The problem was that they didn't sit down and go, how are these ships going to be balanced against each other? What is the classification for these ships? How are this is going to work? Because early on, they had this sort of rock, paper, scissors mentality, which makes sense. It's a classic video game balancing idea where you'd have like light fighters beat bombers, bombers beat big ships beat fighters. So you'd have that sort of like a Akani should have been able to just fucking demolish a squadron of fighters, but it should be vulnerable to a gladiator. But they never really understood that they should also focus their gameplay around the ships itself as well. It's not just ships, it's the weapons as well. Yes, I'll agree with that. They should have just stuck with a generic weapons system rather than unique weapons, because you can always do unique weapons down the line. They can still do that. They can still go back and fix it, but it's going to require throwing out a lot of art and assets and changing things around. I would argue that weapons are easier to balance than ships, because you can always just, because like they don't sell weapons on the market. Like they don't sell weapons in the store as far as I know, like ship weapons. The weapons do not have roles. No, but you can change the dynamics. Like they could simplify it, and they have done this in the past, where you have cannon, hit hard, slow firing, slow velocity. Repeater, fast firing, like fast, medium firing, medium velocity. Gatling, fast firing, fast velocity. Should have longer range as well. Chris wants people to be up close and personal. So, Paul, you haven't said, do you like the Thrasher? The Basher? We're gonna do a capsule where we actually look at it in game and take it for a flight a little bit to kind of like show it off. Masher, Basher, Thrasher. The blow up with the EA, I think, had to do with who controlled the wing commander. The Meteor weapon kit is sold on the website. That is true. There were some weapons, weapon modifications, but you can still change those, because those will change in its design anyways. Some days it feels like they never thought they would make it this far. I love my spaceships, but I want a Bounty Hunter version 2 and my pizza already. Well, the thing is that, like, all right, so let me pitch to you just a basic idea of how CIG could balance this out. At the core of Star Citizen are spaceships. So each spaceship needs a role that matches the player that's flying it. So every single type of gameplay you want to do should have a ship that's assigned to it in a classification that exists. And for me, the classification should be simple. Starter, you have snub, or ground vehicle, snub, and ground vehicle could have its own light, medium, heavy. Snub, starter, light, medium, heavy, gunship, capital. And if you want to do capital, it's frigate, destroyer, cruiser, carrier. How would I balance those? Armor. It's entirely based off of armor. So snubs have maybe have like a disproportionate amount of armor compared to starters, because they have to have some reason to exist. So making them tough little bastards it will work. Starters have the baseline armor values. You base everything off of the starters. So the starters should have a set armor value and everything else is either below or above it. Armor, shields, and component capacity, just do armor. Armor is a simple solution because you can always change that. You can always move that around in terms of subclasses, because if you have shields and component capacity and weapons, those can all be modified and changed, like power plant capacity, all that kind of shit, that can all happen. Light should have more armor than starters, but not much. Medium should have more armors than lights. Heavy should have more armor than medium. Gunship should have more armor than heavy. And then frigate, more armor. Destroyer, and then probably carrier, and then cruiser, and then dreadnought. Armor and weight, yeah. Displacement, armor and weight. Because the weight does matter in Star Citizen, because the physics does actually manage with the weight. So that way, you look at something like a Basher and you look at its armor value and you go, okay, this is light. And if you wanted to change its role, you just increase the armor value. MMM starter aren't a ship type, they're an occupation design. What are you talking about with MMM? Listen to Astro Pub while sleepy is dangerous. I'll get you fired up. Or get you tired, one of the two. The profession starter ships should be classified as light, medium, or heavy. Anything above a heavy, so like above a Vanguard sort of weight and armor, should be a gunship. So a freelancer would be a gunship. I'm sure there's an element of fresh server syndrome, but performance at Levski at night and day is night and day this patch. I'm starting to think it should alternate bug fixes and future contact patches. I've been talking about like that for years. As a result of that classification, you could do anything inside that classification. Oh, you want to be a mercenary? Cool. Let's make a ship that's a starter mercenary ship where you go around and like shoot people like a grunt on the ground. And it's all designed around supporting somebody with a gun on the ground. Then we'll do a light, medium, heavy gunship, and so on and so forth. It means that you can classify gameplay and then find locations and ways to do it. Maybe super heavy. I mean, you could do light, medium, heavy, super heavy, and then capitals if you wanted to do that as well. But super heavy is going to get a little confusing if you also have capital class. You could even just call them class 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Just do that. Because you don't have to have names. You can just do numbers. As long as the designation is 0 is below the 1, so that's like snubs, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. You'd have to change the classification systems in game. You'd have to start referring to them by their number rather than their role. But you can say 1 fighter. So class 1 fighter. Class 1 meaning light or a starter fighter. Class 2 light fighter. Class 3 medium fighter. Class 4 that'd be heavy fighter. Class 5 would be gunship fighter. You know. Class 8 destroyer fighter. But like at that point, fighter, hauler, all those things could be just professions rather than being classifications. So you know a fighter is designed to fight in space. That's what hangar sizes were supposed to be, but they don't use those. That drives me crazy because CIG uses them internally. They have pad sizes. They go like size 0, size 1, size 2. I think it's like a size 7. So like, which are the actual hangar sizes that they use internally for those metrics. But they don't use those metrics to define their own ships. Because you'll see ships that are of some certain sizes go into some hangars and then go back down to smaller hangars or go back up to the larger hangars. I think this ship is a classification if it's intended to be fulfill that role. It could be a size of the sun, but if CIG wants a light fighter, then a light fighter, just poorly designed. But the point is that what I just described is at least you can put a number to it. You can put a value to it, and you know that this is the classified because of its weight and armor. If it has 100 to 150 armor, then it has to have this amount of weight, and that will be in this class. If it has 150 to 200 armor, then it's this class. 250 to 300, this class, so on and so forth. The numbers can be arbitrary because you can then balance that out of there. And because armor is itself an arbitrary thing, it's not going to be physicalized. You're not going to see armor on the ship. It's simply a status inside the engine, or inside the files of the ships. Then it's easier to balance because you can still use roles inside of those classes. And why is that important? Because it allows for easier balance. Because if you're designing a ship and you go, okay, what is this ship designed to do? Let's look at the classifications. All right, let's look at the class. Okay, this ship, we want it to be cool and nimble and fast, so it's probably a class 2 ship, a light fighter. Cool. Now we know the rules for a light fighter. It has to be this between this and this armor. So we need to make it, that style. We need to make it towards that direction. That way, when the gameplay team gets a hold of it, they can go, okay, so we know it's going to have this and this, and it's easier for the ship team, the gameplay team, to start negotiating about what things the ship should have. The problem is right now it's just whatever Chris fucking wants, whatever Chris thinks works or is the coolest. But it's like, Chris, I know you don't have 400 ships in your mind. There are ships you don't remember, and it's really hard to come up with a ship and then be like, this ship is approved, and then not think about how that ship affects 4 other ships in its classification, which nobody's touched in 2 years. Hey, W-Man, sorry. That is my rant. Is that what CIG desperately needs is visible and concrete classifications. Yeah, that's the problem. Limitations will stifle their artistic creativities. I think that's one of the reasons why they haven't done it. It's because they don't want to lose artists and designers, and so they're desperately trying to let the artists have their artistic flair, let them have their little arty art corner, so that they'll stay working for CIG and not fuck off to someplace else that'll give them more artistic freedom. So they don't want to okay, here's the box you got to play in. Even though in my experience and from what I've heard from every person who's ever been a creative in their life, limitations or constraints breeds creativity. You create more interesting things when you're limited with what you have. It's also important that they use the classifications to state rules. Light fighter gets X armor, guns between SX and XY, and maneuverability within these bounds. Exactly. But you need to have those classifications before you start, because they should have those classifications so that when you build a ship, it can fit into those classifications. Because if you don't, you create something like the fucking Reliant Sen, or was it the Tana, the streamer ship? Like, what the fuck is this thing for? You create the Rock DS. The Mako, thank you, it's the Mako. The Tana is the actual good one. The community, the Guardian is the only long-range fighter, the Defender Vanguard pilots. Am I a joke to you? Yeah. I mean, and then there's the Guardian, which is like, oh God, me and X talked about the Guardian on the annual review we did, the like annual classifications we did with the info runners. It was X and Tomato and I. And the thing we kind of talked about was how it's sort of shitty whenever they come out with a new, like, I guess non-gray ship, is that really what they're doing is they have the rough draft and the final edit. It's like the Guardian, all of the Guardians don't matter except for the last Guardian that released. Because the last Guardian that released is the Guardian that they were actually thinking about. The other two were just sort of ideas they had penciled out and said, fuck it, let's just sell those. Hey, Parker. But yeah, the Mako is a great example of the problems that CIG has because it was designed and created with a cool concept and no backup. The Mako is basically dead. Same with the Sen. They're going to have to come up with gameplay that those ships can do. And in order to do that, they're going to have to build more ships that does that specific gameplay. And they're not going to do that because they don't have the time. They don't have the time or the resources. Yeah, you're fucking joking. You're high if you think the last T. Louis is the last variant of the Raylan we're gonna get. We're gonna get at least one, if not two more of those. The Kui has a place, but basically Base Guardian just shit MX. I'll give you that. It's a ship Kui. You have some of the largest gunships in subcapitals locked to size 4 guns they can't maneuver. Also, you have light, medium, and heavy fighters with the same guns. Sorry, I don't mean to be a negative Nancy entirely. This is more of a, the leg is broken. All right, we're staring at a broken leg that CIG has, and I'm trying to like say, hey, we need to like reset this thing and put a splint on this bitch. That's what I'm saying. Some people are saying, cut the fucker off, we don't give a shit. And other people are like, that's fine. This is fine, they'll walk it off, you know? Start downsizing all ship guns with a class parameter. They need to have done that a while ago. You take this Motrin, drink some water, and go take a walk. Yeah. I use that analogy because if they continue to walk on this broken leg, it's gonna get worse. Mark II weapons. I don't necessarily blame the folks in the gameplay team who have to deal with this, because it does feel a lot like those folks are playing second fiddle to the ship teams. It's like content gets priority because content gets flashy. Now the problem is player rebellion when you have to change all their toys. And that's another problem. This is another thing that I've seen in this community and other communities, is that the longer you delay anything that you need to absolutely change, the more things are gonna get worse, because people get addicted or get used to the way things are. And when you change the thing that they're used to, they get mad. And then they just flip out and leave. It's a tough problem trying to make the smaller ships relevant past the start of the game. They could try something like Eve, where small ships can tackle large ships. I don't know. Not necessarily. Each ship has a role. Like, a smaller ship isn't going to take on a bigger ship. But how do you balance bigger ships? That's the problem, is that CIG also doesn't want to balance bigger ships, because bigger ships, the way you balance them is make them require people. Like, the biggest problem with the Idris is that you can fly it solo. Like, engineering is the thing you can use to balance that. But if you did, people would stop buying big ships. So there's the dilemma, is that CIG's main business model of making money is directly connected to gameplay that they now have to deal with, because if that gameplay changes in a way that the audience doesn't like, their sales go down. And if their sales go down, then they can't continue to make the game. I think that just focusing on balance among ships is foolish. There are many other factors like economic statement costs, sustainment cost, repair rearm, availability of repair, ex-military shipyards, munitions. Those can work, but without the actual classifications on their own, then you don't know what the ship is supposed to do. You need to be able to physically, everyone should be able to look at the stats of a ship and go, this is a type 2 ship, or a light fighter, or like a light ship. This is a heavy ship. This is a combat or a capital ship. There needs to be a defined line, so that it is not, that's not really necessarily about balance in terms of overall balance. It's more of the start of the balance. Because once you have that definition, every ship produced after that should fit in one of those definitions, one of those specific roles, one of those specific categories. Doesn't matter what it is. And then it's easier when you get to the things like sustainment costs, repair, all that kind of stuff, because you can use those to help balance it further. But you need that in the first place. Without that initial classifications, it's impossible to fucking do the rest. Yeah, you literally cannot balance a Cessna and an F-15, but an F-15 can't land on a fucking walkway. Cessnas can land on some short fucking runways. And they're very, very, very flexible, and do not require the insane maintenance of an F-15. So the role of those planes matters. You're not going to take an F-15 to go, flying through Alaska on a sightseeing tour. But you're not going to take a Cessna into the heart of Tehran to bomb it. Except there is no difference between civilian and military unless CIG says so, and even then, what makes them both light fighters? Video game. At the end of the day, that's fine. I think the problem right now is getting that initial, easy to understand, clear, cut, like class system that specifically denotes what these things are. A Cessna sank a submarine in World War II. You can strap a bazooka to a Cessna and give it a fighting chance. Yeah, but I still wouldn't strap a bazooka to a Cessna if I had access to an F-15. So far, military components are just better civilian components. Yeah, fine. Combat can be a thing. It can be a subclassification. You just need the classification first. Didn't some West German kid fly his like Cessna into Red Square, bypassing the air defenses? Ships and vehicles have always been measured against what they're designed to do. Measuring against each other is not recommended for mental health. Again, Radar Echo, my point is that we need to know what class they're in the first place. Because a fighter is designed to fight other ships. But what's the difference between a light fighter and a heavy fighter? What's an interceptor versus a fighter? Like, we don't really have that information. We know in theory what they're supposed to do. But in practice, they don't do that. So having this is a fighter of the light category and being able to compare all the ships in the light category so you understand what each of these ships is designed to do, but they're light. So they have similar of a specific thing. Weight, armor, component class, doesn't matter. I don't use military components in any of my ships. They use too many power pips. And why do we have hundreds of fighters at this point? Yeah, GQ is right. It's Squad 42. They know how to make them. Most daring move. A West German pilot flew an ultralight into East Berlin, protected only by painting red stars on the wings. They then flew relatives to West Germany. Damn, that's ballsy. Oh, I'm sorry. This is Ghost. It got caught in the thing, and then they gave the Odin a bow-mounted fuck-off laser. Yeah, that is a problem. No, what Icon was saying is that the guy who flew his light plane into Red Square is not the most daring guy, as the guy who flew his light plane to smuggle his family members to West Berlin. I mean, why even measure racing? Everyone wins. I mean, with racing, it's easy to balance because you have classifications: light, medium, heavy. Typically, in most modern racing, you don't have a Formula One car going up against a NASCAR or a car that's going to drive the Le Mans. They're all different cars for different races for that same purpose. Maybe they will have better defined classification when Squadron 42 drops and they can get Maelstrom into PU. Not holding my breath though. I'm not either, because there is a significant cultural problem. What I just described, I think, would alleviate a lot of the problems in the future. It would take a lot of work. It wouldn't fix all the problems right away, but it would fix the problems 2 years from now. And folks don't like that because it would hurt now for all the people who are playing now, or hurt in the near future once you have those classifications and then you start balancing for those classifications, when you start changing people's component loadouts and weapons loadouts and missile loadouts and maneuvering speeds. Because now that they have a category, they have to fit within that category. That's what Master Modes was. That's literally what they were doing with Master Modes. And what did it do? It caused everyone to fucking complain. Yeah, but if it makes players stop buying ships or stop playing in game, CIG is upset, is scared about it, because it's clear they have mentioned publicly multiple times that retention and gameplay hours are what they look at. They look at how many people are logging in and how long are they playing. What they care the most about is number of players on servers and length of average play session. And because they've mentioned that multiple times, and the highest levels of the company have mentioned it, I'm taking that to say that that's the metric they care about, other than sales. And what do you do if you do a big, massive shakeup and revamp everything to try to make things fit into a classification system to make it easier to balance in the future? It's going to make people go, the ship that I spent $300 on is now the ship I can't use because it doesn't do what I wanted it to do when I purchased it for. Fuck you, I'm leaving. And that means logins go down and gameplay time goes down. It's necessary, but that sounds like it would get them sued in the EU. I don't know if it would, but it could. The biggest problem at CIG is the Thane of Thanes problem. We don't want to exclude anyone from anything. Oh yeah, the fucking rep issues. Yeah, Bethesda effect. At this point, it is going to happen. The question is just when can they afford to piss everyone off? Probably after the cash influx from 42. The problem about that is you would have to, because it takes time at CIG to do that. So they would have to start planning for that after 40 or before, like now-ish. Doesn't matter when 42 is releasing. You'd have to start planning for that change now. And there's no indication they are. So what they'll do instead is wait until after Squadron 42 is completely released and then plan for it 6 to 9 months later. Because they usually work about 6 to 9 to 12 months. Between half a year and a year is the amount of time it takes for them to actually plan something and then complete it if they have everything they need to. So that's even worse, because you piss everyone off after everyone's already purchased Squadron and the people who like Squadron purchased Star Citizen. Now you fucking change everything 6 months later. Whoops. You see what I mean when I said initially that CIG just kind of fucked themselves and they're just sort of dealing with that problem? There is no right move. Their leg is broken. No matter what, it's gonna hurt. The question is, do you want it to hurt now? and a lot now and it'll be better later, or let it continue to hurt now and then fix it later where you've already got other complications that are cause more problems. Yeah, and costs are not going to go down. Like, costs are just going to keep going up between costing more for people to hire them. They still have studios they have to pay for. They have like certain lease agreements in terms of length that they have to be in. So as long as we don't get theme park citizen. And that's the reason why this captain's table that's coming up this Saturday is the discussion on sandbox versus theme park. And it was brought up in the Discord when I mentioned that, which is like those are not diametrically different things. You can have both, and you can have both. Many games do have both. The question becomes more, what should CIG focus on, and how much theme park versus how much sandbox? And the thing that's driving me crazy is that if CIG honestly wants retention, if they're worried about player retention and time, then sandbox is what you need. You need to work on the sandbox elements. You don't understand the difference? The simplest difference between a sandbox and a theme park is a theme park has a beginning, middle, and end. A sandbox has objectives that can be achieved in any direction you want them to achieve. So Minecraft is a sandbox. It has an end, and there's a way to get to that end, but how you get to that end is entirely up to you. Whereas Halo is a theme park. You go through the lines, it's a linear levels, there's very little choice, you're going through the story, completing the story, and beating the game. That it is designed for you to have an experience. Sometimes that experience can vary a little bit, but it's going to be the same experience as everybody else has. If only there was some kind of alternative game mode where you could test major changes without instancing the PU, right? Skyrim is a theme park, big map, lots of rides. It's a theme park with sandbox elements. Because you always get to the end the same way, but there's just lots of different stories you can do while you play it. I would not say sandbox elements at all. I would agree it has sandbox elements because where you go is determined and what you do is entirely up to you. You can skip entire elements. You can change entire elements of the you don't have to go on those rides, and you can make your own rides. There's elements of character customization and class customization in terms of what you can do, what sort of weapons and armor you can carry, how you approach different things. There's still some elements to it because you can like completely bypass levels intentionally. There's a reason why theme parks are a multi-billion-dollar industry. It's also there's also a reason why a lot of theme parks fail, because if you don't have consistent ridership or people coming through, you fail. I haven't heard of a park failing. Parks can get nasty. They can get people can come in and take over. The homeless can take over. You can get gangs to come into parks. But like, parks exist for everyone's amusement. We're gonna need a bigger verse. No, there's 5 systems that are all pretty big with lots of locations. Isn't that? No, it's not much of a on sandbox. The sandbox is there. I'm saying it has sandbox elements, not that it is a sandbox game. Yeah, that's the problem with theme parks, is that once you reach the max level, once you reach endgame, people get bored and leave. Anyone's get free X-Fire Extinguisher's ass? You get 94? Holy shit. Basically, what I believe CIG needs to do is they need to make more Hathors and less tactical strike groups. We need more places you can go without a mission to do a thing that'll get you resources that will then encourage you to do things. We need more elements. We have crafting, but we need a reason why crafting should exist. We need to have things like areas with higher level enemies that are just naturally dangerous for you to go through. We need to have world bosses that randomly spawn in locations that have high value loot that you can go in for. You want PvE content? That's it. Well, no, because Hathor isn't just PvE content. It's an open world PvE PvP content. At any time while you're doing the things to activate Hathor, you can get attacked and overtake it. There's a reason to fight for Hathor. Hathor is boring and dumb. It serves one gameplay, mining. The most boring sleep in my chair snooze fest they've made yet. No, I disagree. It's a good dynamic sandbox. They just need to add more variety to it. No, I mean mining. Mining is like a tool. It is part of the sandbox routine. But everything you get up to the mining is also engaging. We need more things for citizens. They're too focused on military, like they want to be the next Star Wars. I mean, they do. But yeah, you're right. But we also need things to do. Like crafting, but crafting needs to serve a purpose. That purpose needs to be able to do something beyond just combat. It should be able to make better efficient stuff, which they kind of do.
You can take away my space suit. You can even take away my space lasers.
No pew-pews.
But you can never,
ever
take away my space game.
UK Dude 2 just resubscribed for 34 months.
Thanks for that 34 months of Prime there, UK Dude. How you doing, bud? Very important, Pepper, very impressive, very pedestrian. You rock, shots and cheers, and check, y'all, shots and cheers. UK Dude's been around for a long time. How you doing? Mining is... maybe this is a controversial opinion, but like mining and salvaging doesn't have to be the most engaging and fun experiences in the universe. They just need to be serviceable and they need to be able to scale. the bones of mining and salvage are fine. They just need to add a little bit more randomness to it. In terms of like power spikes, instability changes, multiple stages, rather than, you know, mining already has, like, you break the rock, it kind of splits into different ones, then mine again. But there should be, because right now it's just sort of, it's a random split, whatever it's going. You should have a skill in order to like figure out how to split a certain thing in a specific way in order to guarantee a higher level. Like, One, Batman Shelley, your humble host and space bartender here at the Astropub, your space bar at the end of the universe. Sit back, relax, enjoy the show. We got a good one for you. Hey there, bud. ED's mining is more. What is ED's mining system? Because last time I remember it was limpet system, where you'd like send out limpets and they'd mine for you. Other than that, it was just like shooting rocks. Where can I get my space mojito? I don't know. Maybe here. I've seen it, but it's been a while. Like, when I saw it, it was like early Elite Dangerous. I don't think it was before deep core mining. Take a look. This is 6 years ago. This is 2 years ago. Here we go. It's 10 minutes.
Okay. Just watch this. Okay. Just watch this. Core mining is so rewarding, both in fun and credits. This profession is not for the faint of heart, however. It's definitely one of the more complex aspects of the game, so expect a more in-depth guide than usual. We'll be covering ship building, what and where to mine, how to find cores, and extracting your materials.
Oh, is it too soft?
While everyone has a different opinion on what ship to take core mining, what you can't argue with is that you'll need at least 2 hardpoints, one of which must be medium, and you'll need a good amount of internal space. I personally like some good agility in my core mining builds, so I stick to medium ships and the more agile large ones. So
Elite is a good example of how you balance, because they really balance based off of hardpoints rather than based off of weapon mounts and stuff like that. So like the hardpoints themselves can fit any weapon or utility mount for that specific size. So
with that in mind, the best ships on screen are my favourites, all of which have Coriolis builds linked below. When you make your mining ship,
for people who are showing up, we were talking about sandbox versus theme park gameplay. And people were saying, you know, a good example of good mining, because they're talking about how mining is sort of boring in Star Citizen. I was like, it doesn't have to be crazy. It can be okay if it's a little easy. And people are saying Elite Dangerous is better at mining, and I remembered mining being very simple in Elite Dangerous. But then I hadn't played Elite Dangerous when they did deep core mining.
Feel free to shift the Coriolis build around, or use a different ship completely, depending on how you play the game. Feel free to use these lists of essential and helpful modules while you build. Engineering is absolutely not essential for core mining, so if you're getting ready for your first trip, I really wouldn't bother. But if you've tried core mining and you want to take your ship to the next level, the list on screen shows my engineering recommendations ordered by...
And engineering should be what crafting in Star Citizen is. As UK Dude said, like you should also be able to to tinker with these a little bit to get a little bit more out of them, but that's actual engineering.
How beneficial they are. As I said earlier, this isn't at all essential, but it could be really handy if you're planning to use this ship for dozens of mining trips. Convenient fire groups really help with mining. Feel free to use mine, shown on screen, and adjust them to how you play. If you're out purely for the fun, just find a planet with rings, scan them with the detailed surface scanner, and look for a hotspot for any of these minerals. Once you find one, great, that's your mining location. Feel free to skip on to the next chapter. If you'd like some more credits, you'll want to mine the most profitable of these commodities. Unfortunately, there's no one most valuable, as the market is always fluctuating between them. To find what's selling for the most when you're watching, visit inara.cz, go to Commodities, Commodities List, select Minerals, and click Max Sell to identify the most valuable mineral. Select the top result in this list and scroll down to Where to Sell. If you find a station with high demand, a recent update time, and a good price.
Problem is, there's only really a few engineering setups that really work in Elite Dangerous. Yeah, that's just a matter of balance. Perseus mentioned. Okay, I'll disappear again for a few months. Hey, lad. Perseus has been out for a while.
You've found your mineral. If none of these stations fit the criteria, go back to the commodities list and try the second best mineral, and so on. In fact, in the footage you're seeing, I had to go back to the commodities list 4 times to find a mineral with a good sell station. Now, to find a hotspot for your mineral, use edtools.cc. Go to Hotspots, input your current system or your sell system from Inara.
This is not a good sign, honestly. This is 2 years old, so it might have changed, but like this shit should be in the game. This should be an Elite. All right.
To find the best mineral, then I'd recommend using a site called edmining.com to find the absolute best mining location for that mineral. Make sure you stock up on limpets before going any further. Head to your planet and scan the ring with your detailed surface scanner. If there's more than one ring, make sure to scan them all. This will show up all the hotspots in the rings, lighting them up. Find the hotspot for your chosen material.
Oh, look at that. Fucking scanning gameplay.
Now is as good a time as any to identify what kind of ring you'll be mining in, as this will be important later. Head to the system map, select your planet, and click on Planetary Information. The ring or rings of your planet will appear in a drop-down menu. If there's only one, there you go, this here is your ring type. If there are multiple rings, the letter at the end of the ring name shows how far away from the planet it is. So this is ring A, and this is ring B. Go back to your ship to check which of the rings your hotspot is in. Then go back to the menu to confirm what type of ring it is. Note this down, or make sure you remember it. After you've done this, crash into your hotspot. Remember to pick somewhere others aren't likely to go. I like to drop in near the edge of the yellow coloured area. When you arrive, some space pirates will probably spawn alongside you. Let them have a look at you. As long as you're only carrying limpets, they'll get bored after a minute or so and fly off. Once they're gone, deploy your hardpoints, head down into the rocks and fire your pulse wave analyzer. Some rocks will light up in red, orange and yellow. These glowing rocks are the interesting ones we'll be looking at, because our new aim is to find core asteroids. When I first started
This sounds an awful like Star Citizen already.
Core mining, this felt like the absolute hardest part. It's something you'll get better at with experience, but I'll do my best to give you a head start. When you find a core rock, it should glow bright yellow in the pulse wave scanner. This does depend on your graphic settings though, so it might be a little different for you. Then there's the shape of core asteroids. In the whole game, there are 4 shapes of rock that contain cores, with 1 for each kind of planetary ring. So in your hotspot, every core rock will look exactly the same as the last. This means that memorizing the rough shape of your core asteroids can help a lot with finding cores, or motherlodes as some miners call them. To help you out, here's some footage of each type of core so you can get used to the shape. Core asteroids in a rocky ring will be quite big and fairly rough, covered in craters. They're fairly spherical in shape, with an extra lump on the side if you see what I mean. Metallic core asteroids will be medium in size, with some angular metallic lumps over the surface. They're also shaped a bit like a teardrop. Core asteroids in a metal-rich ring are very similar to those in a metallic ring. They're medium in size, with lots of lumps and bumps, and are shaped roughly like a teardrop, with a slightly pointier end. Icy core asteroids are also medium in size, covered in cracks, and also shaped a bit like a pumpkin, if you see what I mean. Whatever kind of ring you're in, you'll get a much better feel for it with time. When you find a rock that you think might be a motherlode, fire a prospector limpet at it. If you see core detected in the bottom left panel, then you found a core. Pat yourself on the back. Or don't, whatever you fancy. Fly around the rock a bit to get used to the shape. Every other core in the hotspot looks exactly like the one that you've just found. Also, you might notice that the core you've found contains a different material to the hotspot's name, but for your first few trips, I'd suggest that you blow the rock up anyway, purely for the practice. Some forewarning here, this section can be a little confusing, and there's a time limit to deal with as well, so I'd recommend that you watch this chapter all the way through before going any further in-game. First, we need to understand how the seismic charge launcher and fissures work. If you go to your seismic charge launcher fire group, you'll notice that the hardpoint has a 3-segment bar on the HUD. This bar fills up the longer you hold the trigger. Each segment means a different strength of charge. 1 segment means low charge, 2 means medium, and a full 3 segments means a maximum strength charge. Now, fissures. If you look at the rock and target the V-shaped icons, or just check in the contacts panel, you'll see asteroid fissures. You'll be firing seismic charges into these in order to blow up the rock. Each fissure has a strength shown in the bottom left menu. It can be low, average, or high. Your aim later on will be to do the perfect amount of damage to the core, which is why both the fissure and charge have a strength rating. If you were to hit a low strength fissure with a high strength charge, that would do a load of damage to the rock, whereas if you hit a high strength fissure with a weak charge, you won't do much damage at all. Once you vaguely know what you're doing, fire your first seismic charge into a fissure. The minigame and 2-minute timer will begin. If you look at the top right of your screen, you'll see a graph has appeared. The aim is to do enough damage to get the bars in the middle or optimal section. If you don't do enough damage, the rock won't blow up. If you do too much, the explosion will be violent and you won't get nearly as many chunks of your material. Use your pitch and vertical thrust to move around the asteroid, targeting fissures and firing charges into them according to their strength. If you accidentally do too much damage, go to the contacts menu, find a fissure you've put a charge in, and press disarm. After a few seconds, the damage that seismic charge did will be removed from the graph. This part will probably be tricky at first, and you'll probably end up losing a few rocks, but that's fine. By your 3rd or 4th motherload, you'll probably have it sussed out. Once you've got the graph into the optimal zone, back away from the rock and wait for the timer to run out. If you have lots of time to spare, go to Contacts, select a fissure you've loaded, and select Detonate Now. You can relax. The time pressure is over. Back away from the rock some more if your shields are on the weaker side, and get ready for one of the most satisfying moments in the whole game. I'll shut up so you can hear it properly. Ooh, what a moment. Probably the most satisfying one in the whole game for me. Now, switch to your next fire group, open your cargo scoop, and start deploying collector limpets to pick up the free chunks. If you got the graph in the optimal zone, you should have freed between 9 and 15 chunks from the rock in the initial explosion. If you enter...
So, the change I can see CIG already doing with that is simply have hotspots you mine at. Scan a rock, find a location, and you just have the laser charge situation where you have to like laser it to a certain degree and then move on to the next node. And the each node in a rock is a different strength, so you have to like hit it at a right spot to hit it at the right angle to like pop it. Or you can just do what Elite Dangerous is doing with just add charges, seismic charges. Because it would actually get players to go out EVA and plant the mines on the ship.
You can take away my spaceship.
Spaceship.
You can take away my space suit. You can even take away my space lasers.
No pew-pews.
But you can never,
ever
take away my space game.
Kleptor_ just resubscribed for 37 months. 07 Paul. With the new armored clothes, have they dropped any law on those companies yet? Also, Will the senator be leading the voters in style when comes back?
Yes, that's definitely going to be the case. And they haven't, as far as I know, just some basic stuff like the company exists and they make, you know, slightly more armored weapon or armor kind of stuff. Thanks so much for that 37 months. You're very important, Pupper. Very precipice, very pedestrian. This your fault. This your drinking. I trust. Cheers, chat. You have trust and cheers. Yeah, you just have the simple solution is have sizes of rock, small, medium, and large. And each of those sizes of rock has a specific threshold. And the larger the rock is, the like small rocks, you can just do what you have right now with mining. Like you have to hit it, you have to like keep it on the level. And then medium and large, you can either do seismic charges, where you can like put a seismic charge on specific hot points and it'll break up for you, and then all you have to do is hoover it up. Or you do the regular mining, but it just requires more strength, like higher strength lasers. And then large rocks, you have to do seismic charges. And you just get larger volumes and better quality. Yeah. Because it would also allow for players to go EVA and take advantage of one of the unique things that Star Citizen has over a game like Elite, which is EVA, going out in space. And they already have the gadgets. Just use the gadgets. They have the gadget models to turn them into explosions. All right, I'll be right back, chat. Don't go anywhere. Your fun button's on and everything.
Weapons free, y'all. Good news, everyone. I'm Fly. I'm Pilot.
I love democracy.
Genesis? Genesis? Barcelona! Barcelona!
If they want to get someone super complex and the rocks didn't auto fracture, use a laser to drill holes. Yeah. You use the same technology you already have for mining, and you just crack holes in the big rocks and then drop mining charges in. They're already mining gadgets to make you go EVA. That's my point. You just use the mining gadgets animations and replace it with like a detonation. You can reuse the same props and then re-edit the props to make them look more like charges. Do you think Prospector will have ground mining? No, I don't think so. It's not, you don't even have to do physics-based with that. My point being is like, that, for instance, is an example of if CIG worked on that rather than working on, you know, not necessarily Siege of Orison, but like the depths and the what do they call it? It's not called it the depths, but it was a different name for it. The municipal works, thank you. If they worked on something like that versus the municipal works, I think they would get more mileage out of improving mining to add a little bit more complexity to it and getting more reward out of it than they would with just having a cool new thing. That can even make small ships usable, just a time difference in how small your chunk would have to process it. Yeah. Like small ships, you wouldn't be able to take all of the material from a larger crack, but you could do it. And you could copy and paste the same situation with the salvage. When you have larger ships, you just have to scan the ship, find the breakpoints on that ship, because they'll be different for every ship. Even if you have like the same breakpoints on a Hercules, you could have 3 or 4 different versions of those breakpoints. You go out with a demolition charge and place them on those breakpoints and then pop them, and then they break apart. My point being is those sorts of gameplay elements will go longer and improve the playability more than doing a bunch of things that takes a lot of time and effort to produce and break. They still haven't given me a reason to do all those activities. Yeah, the other issues are you have to connect all of these theme park things into the sandbox. And they haven't. They tried to, and then they just haven't bothered to, because it takes a lot of time and effort to upkeep. So, for instance, at the end of every, in like the vault rooms of all of the, what are they called? Contested zones, there should be high-grade components. Not just good components, but like high tier components, or like better components than you would averagely get. So it's not just, you know, oh, you get the military components. It's like military components that are like quality 800 or whatever. And high quality ores. That means that you don't have to go mining to get high quality ores. And in some cases, it might be more efficient to just go run multiple versions of like contested zones, or to do Hathor, or not Hathor, but yeah, maybe Hathor, but like the other sort of events to, or like theme park locations to get that done. Rockbreaker, for example. Yeah. Tactical strike groups. The end should give you high quality materials and higher than average crafted materials. If they get the economy going, that needs to not be to be a thing, though. You just RNG it. It takes incentive and profit out of mining. No, it doesn't. It just means that if you want to go mining, you have a chance to do it, and if you don't want to go mining, you still have a chance to get it. You're going to get a high volume, much more volume of material from mining than you would from these events anyways. And it would be probably faster and easier to do so. To reiterate my point, I believe that the sandbox elements are more important than the theme park elements, because when you have good sandbox elements, you don't have to worry about the theme parks as much. So you can focus on making the theme parks good and interesting, and they sort of become a nice sometimes thing. Like, oh, this event is happening. Oh, this new thing is coming out. That's neat. You can focus on working on it, iterating on it, improving it, changing it up and experimenting, because you already have your sandbox elements, at least in some degree, there for players to engage with while you're doing these other things. Worms having only a few things is rough. If you had multiple chances of fighting the worm rather than just one place, no, it wouldn't be. Social tools when? Not until next year. Agreed, a theme park is 10 times better in a sandbox. One of the things you can do, a great game to look at, is the ARC games. Because the ARC games have sort of slowly evolved and perfected this art. Conan Exiles did it too, but I think ARC copied their homework and did it really well, which is everyone, like Ark Survival, not Survival Evolved, Ark Survival, the latest Ark version. It's like Ascended, Ark Survival Ascended, has multiple world bosses inside of each map. So each like, you spin up a map of Ark, there are going to be multiple world bosses in that. And I think you can randomize which ones there are. And if you defeat those world bosses, you can get insane levels of stuff as a result of it. And that is a theme park because that's a boss battle. Getting to that is going to be a battle. It's always going to be the same, no matter what you do. It is a theme park experience. There is very little element of randomness there. But everything around it is a sandbox, because you can choose what level of technology and weapons and types of weapons and armor you take to that fight, which can include some crazily overpowered things for some of those stuff. Star Wars Galaxy is still the best sandbox. I have no clue why people still haven't copied this system from that game. Money. The Star Wars Galaxies failed as a game. And we can argue till the cows come home why Star Wars Galaxies failed. But the fundamental answer is it didn't make any money. And so, generally speaking, if you're a video game developer, unless you're a passionate indie, you're going to look at what functions, what works, what is selling well, and then develop a game based off of what you kind of like, but also what sells. And the cost of running something like a Star Wars Galaxies today is astronomical. So instead of making a Star Wars Galaxies, you could make a survival crafter, which you can do with a co-op experience and have something similar. What was so good about the Star Wars Galaxy sandbox? Effectively, CIG is trying to copy it. And so let me go over what the crafting system actually is for Star Citizen before we get into our actual meat and potatoes of tonight, and then we'll call it. Because we'll also look at the roadmap roundup and that kind of stuff. You are not supposed to be able to craft everything in the game. You will never be able to craft everything in the game. They don't want you to craft. They want you to focus on one thing or a handful of things you're really good at. And as a result, you can get really good at that one thing, and then you become a valuable person in that thing because it takes a lot of time and effort to do so. That is the Star Wars Galaxies method. You could do something, become like a crafter of a very specific thing, and get really good at crafting that thing. And not even the game itself would sell gear that you could make, which means that players would have to come to you physically to buy your things. And players could build entire towns on maps where they could sell their wares, live together, fight against each other, all that kind of stuff. The reason Sony is changing PlayStation to the mobile gaming model. Yep. But the core of Star Wars Galaxy Sandbox was specialization. Because you could have players that specialized in specific things, it was insane. And as Just Watching says, as much as I love Star Wars Galaxies, the major spots of good loot were camped nonstop. I think the bosses like the Crate Dragon, etc., could have been instanced, which is what CIG is trying to do with instancing. Question, do you think after they get 5 systems, they'll move on to more systems and take time stuff with 5 content? They'll move on to more systems. Once they actually have the technology to make the systems the way they want to, there's no reason why they wouldn't continue to make systems. They've said in the past that it doesn't take them that long to make a planet in systems. What they're trying to do is Starchitect, which will really speed up the process that takes them a lot of time, which is points of interest. Once they get Starchitect up and running, which can auto-generate points of interest, which requires very little touching by an actual designer, they will effectively be able to populate a planet, a world, a moon, it doesn't matter, an entire system with unique locations and unique interesting actions at a flick of a switch. They'll still probably need to go over to find errors and other problems with that and obviously iterate on these systems so that they're a little bit better. But once they have those systems in, it becomes a button push rather than a like multi-month situation. Goddamn, mature.
At Mature Gamer HQ gifted at Matu a membership.
Thank you for gifting those subs. I'm gonna have to pause this because it'll go over more and more and more. Thank you so much there, Mature Gamer, for gifting those 5 memberships on YouTube. You're very important puppers, very impressive business, very pedestrian. You rock. Shots and cheers and chat, y'all. Shots and cheers. I gotcha. I can see the similarities with how CIG described crafting in the end game. Yeah. I remember when ship repair was supposed to be right after salvage. Oh, I know. CIG needs to embrace more mundane activities than combat if they want to copy Star Wars Galaxy's sandbox. Really what they need to do is finish the loops. There's a couple things they need to do. Number one is they need to unite crafting and salvage into refining. So you need refining. Once you have crafting and salvage and refining, then you can start doing more crafting, or not crafting, salvage, mining and salvage, and then refining. Then connect refining to mining, or to crafting and base building. Those all connect back to each other. You have those 6 items, you can loop them back into each other. Because once you have crafting, you can produce better materials, better like industrial materials to do better mining or salvage, and then put those back on your mining and salvage ship to then improve the quality or the collection of your mining and salvage, which then goes back into refining, which then goes back into crafting and base building to let you build better facilities or better items. It's the survival crafting loop. You start off with a stick and 2 rocks, and you end up with a nuclear generator, a nuclear power plant. You know. Don't forget reputation. Reputation's important, but what I just which I just discussed right now, I think is a far more important thing than even reputation, because it gets the actual loop in for players to experience it. That way, combat plays a role in any of those locations, but all of that can be done entirely peacefully by individuals. Because really what we should get is 2 different things. We need raw resources and refined resources. And the gateway for raw and refined resources is refining. That works best with a threat, Vandal raids. It can be Vandal raids, it can be outlaw raids, but you don't need a threat right away. You just need to get those things in. Once you get those things in, then you can focus on wrenches you can throw into the works, like outlaw raids, or Vandal raids, or even like corporate sabotage. Because until you can get those features in, there's no point in having ways that things can fuck up. There's no point in doing like the spanner in the works until you actually understand how things are supposed to work. Now, there needs to be some kind of goal at the end. And the thing is, it doesn't need to be one goal, but I feel like sandboxes work best when there are multiple goals you can achieve. That's where the theme park aspects of you can use to help you get that point. The problem right now is that CIG is looking at all the theme park aspects as sort of things you do to get specific things, when what they should do is instead shift a little bit away from just this is how you get these specific things to this is how you get reputation, which will then unlock blueprints or allow you to purchase blueprints. Right now, they're sort of experimenting with how to distribute blueprints, and it is what it is. It's fine how it is now. It's just testing and making sure things work. And they're adding more blueprints and more things you can craft every patch. I don't know if they added it in 4.9. They may have added it with 4.10, but there's lots of stuff you can craft right now, which is neat. really what they need to do is, once they get the loop down, that the blueprints themselves become the thing you go to the theme park for. You show up at the theme park so that you can earn the reputation, so you can go purchase or pick up or gather those blueprints. That is also kind of how they described it. So, all right, let's watch this video real quick, and then we'll do our sort of first impressions.
You know, you're the person driving into the...
When we introduced the Gray's Market Shiv last year, it was an interesting time to be able to bring that sort of junker aesthetic into the Star Citizen universe.
It really embodied a style of art called kit bashing and brought it to you guys, the players.
You can approach it in different ways than other manufacturers, so you don't need to adhere to all the typical rules.
I like that we get this opportunity to make these ships that aren't pristine and neat and tidy.
And we're proud to introduce the new addition from Gray's Market, the Basher. Basher is a light fighter, and it prioritizes guns over literally absolutely everything else.
The light fighter is really fun because they're far more maneuverable than the higher fighters in the class.
It's meant for quite close dogfight, especially in close combat ranges.
And this one's particularly well gunned as well, so it's going to give you a lot of firepower.
It's got its 6 size 2 weapons and its 2 missile launchers.
And whilst they are new weapons, they are not bespoke or unique to the ship. You can swap them with other weapons of the same size. On paper, something like this is a challenge to balance. On the first read, you go six guns, that's a lot. They are size 2, so they're not the most powerful guns in the game, but they are perfectly capable of taking on other fighters and dealing damage.
Someone was asking what the purpose of the crane is, and I will show you right here.
Taking on
right there. Notice how the actual line of the crane, the thing that comes down, is directly in between the fire of the guns. That's because it's a cheap iron sights is what it is. That's the practical nature of it. It's just over the top.
Other fighters and dealing damage. But the big consideration with this ship is the size of it. It is significantly smaller than any of the other.
90% looking good, 10% iron sights. It's an inefficient iron sights. Yeah.
Light fighters in the game.
It's a overall trade-off between being a very small compact fighter, which is very hard to hit, but also it's quite very low durability compared to all other ships in the class. You need to be very aware of your piloting skill, and you need to be very conscious about all the threats surrounding you, because as soon as you get hit, you're gonna feel it.
The overall aesthetic, as with all of our Gray's ships, it's got this really interesting cobbled together aesthetic to it that makes it very different from the rest of our ships.
So the first thing you're really going to notice on the exterior of the Basher is just how big the engines are in comparison to the kind of the rest of the body. We wanted the cockpit and the engines to be sat quite far back, and we kind of wanted this almost sort of like hot roddy kind of feel to the vehicle.
You'll see a lot of parts taken or inspired by other ships in the game, and you'll see a lot of Drake parts, Buccaneer parts. There's a bit of the Gladius in there, there's a bit of the Aurora in there.
There's a bit of the Avenger in there too, isn't there?
Yeah, there's all sorts in there. And a few other little surprise pieces.
So when you're working on a ship like this that's got so many different things bodged together, the biggest challenge is what we would call resolving forms. Everything is a sharp edge and everything is like an afterthought.
You walk around and it's a bunch of stacked bits of metal, barely put together. The weapon rack is just a broken fence. Then the personal storage is like a filing cabinet welded into the ship.
If it looks bodged, it is. And over everywhere, you're going to see cables, you're going to see bits of metal bolted on, rust, all that character that we talked about with what makes this manufacturer so special from an artistic standpoint.
The enter and exit animations are sort of a byproduct of how we build our ships. For a lot of ships we use templated animations, so a lot of the touch points that you use and the position your character moves is shared between a lot of ships. Occasionally we do new animations, such as on the Wharf. But for this one we used the Merlin enter-exit. And we couldn't quite get the character to climb and maneuver over the ship, so we thought, what's a great way that we can integrate this?
This is really stupid.
This was solved by just cutting a hole in the wing. Maybe it's from a past explosion or fight. Maybe it's from a ship that they already took and was already damaged. We used
rust and battle damage straight off the assembly line. Every Bachelor has the exact same fight and got the exact same battle damage. I don't really care that much. As long as it's generally dirty, it's fine. I can write that off as a video game. This I don't understand. This would just make a solution, which is cut open a hole in the wing.
Different bits of rebar instead of ladders. It's just a fun take on something we've done before.
I think the cockpit is probably one of my favourite parts of Basher.
Laziness, that's what it is. It's not laziness. It's that CIG thinks every ship needs a narrative because they're still thinking in terms of Squadron 42. So every ship has to feel the same for every player. So that has to be, they're thinking in terms of okay, so this is a single player experience. They're not really, I don't think they're actually saying this is a single player experience, but they're internalizing that. So every ship has to have the same look, same feel.
The game is unlike anything else we have in the game.
Someone's kind of built this just out of parts. It's not built to be safe.
I like to think of it as a rally car in a sense. It has this kind of mesh wire that's got holes cut in it, almost like they couldn't find a complete bit of mesh that was going to fit the window.
The dashboard on the Basher is very similar to old Drake ships. Everything lights up in different states. So when you turn the ship on, it doesn't just turn on like another ship. There's definitely wiring problems.
It doesn't feel like...
Ships are characters, not tools. Yeah, that's a problem. Which is the ships themselves should be tools that players get to customize. Kind of have some of that. It's because they're with the Drake, with the Basher and the or with the Shiv, they have the little cosmetic kits you can put onto it. But yeah.
Somewhere you would want to be in a crisis, but you're the person driving into the crisis.
The other big defining part of the cockpit kind of experience and cockpit view is obviously the crane.
It makes the silhouette so interesting and so different that it's a real unique piece to the ship.
This lines up perfectly with the reticle, so it helps with aiming.
And then obviously, if you find you're kind of in combat and that's become slightly distracting, you can jump into the front camera and get a real good zoomed in view as well. So on launch, the ship doesn't come with any kind of cosmetic kits other than the crane, which comes as standard, which you're able to kind of remove if you so wish. But we do hope to explore more cosmetic kits. It gives more options to our players for visual upgrades, and I think it's a really kind of nice and exciting thing to be able to do. The paints for the Basher are kind of what you would expect if you're familiar with the ship's paints.
There's some of the things like the default paints as well as the floral pattern and skull.
What we wanted to try and do with the Grey's Market vehicles is give them quite a strong brand identity on top of the visual style we've already established.
Very happy with this ship. It's been great to see it come to fruition.
I love it. I think it's great. I think it's a really, I don't want to say cute, because it's definitely not a cute ship, unique ship.
I think it adds a new dimension to the combat experience in game, and I think people will have a lot of fun flying this.
It's not jalopy.
Yeah, I know she said junker.
I'll let him finish. But yeah, the CIG already that ship sailed when they started selling ships. So.
Instead of jalopy.
I did say junker instead of jalopy intentionally.
No, I wouldn't call these jalopies. A jalopy to me is a very specific sort of beetle. I don't know.
I feel like jalopy has a negative kind of connotations with it, and I'm not sure I'm on board with that. I think it's more a junker, I think, rather than a jalopy.
This is me banging my head on the microphone. I need you to say it's a jalopy.
No, I don't think it's a jalopy.
I can't help but just think of like pizza when I think of jalopy. If we ever make a round ship that like has like sections that can like separate off and fly away, then we can call it the jalopy. Okay.
If they can do this, where the fuck is the dire hawk? If they sold the dire hawk, it would have to be sold separately from the regular hawk. Your skins wouldn't transfer over, and they would have to have known how the hawk was built in the first place. We would have had the dire hawk if the people who built the original hawk were still working for CIG. It's an okay ship, just another intern project. I wouldn't be surprised if this is a ship that's a squadron ship. That it's a squadron ship that they ported over to Star Citizen, because we know that the Shiv is a squadron ship that they ported over to Star Citizen. So there was a sort of F8C looking combined with the Buccaneer, combined with a Mustang ship, which this may have turned into, or that could be a different ship as well that we might see. Ooh. Love how the Greys and Nyx weapons all look like they should come from Pyro, whereas the stuff from Nyx should be well made, rugged, well maintained, but no frills. It should be like a little rusted, a little beat up, but yeah. Doesn't have components, so wouldn't be surprised if it's a squadron ship. If it doesn't have components, then it's a squadron ship. 100% it's a squadron ship. Yeah, the Mustang Greys, because it's based off of a Hornet chassis, so it has a Aurora Mark 1 in it. It's not a Mark 2. That back end is a Mark 1. Oh. I don't know what that would make the Aurora, though. What do you mean? Is Tony Z's Qantas shelved for good? No, but it's not the same as he planned on it. Like, I don't think we're going to get virtual NPCs. But the Qantas system still runs the refuel rearm system in game. So when you go to a location and buy fuel or buy like get repair, not rearm, but you refuel repair. That is still run by the Star Sim system, which is what Qantas turned into. Yeah, the Basher is the Gladius, the Buccaneer, the Aurora, and the Avenger. Same with fixed numbers? No, there's no fixed numbers for fuel as far as I know. You don't spend the exact same amount of fuel everywhere you go. It's just randomized. Ooh. XQ shown the leaked vid with the Basher, the Mustang-looking ship, and the Aurora Kit Bash ship. Yeah, I'm going to show you the Mustang. Let me pull it up. Here you go. This is from 2019. Okay. This is like the new style. So these glowing tubes, I don't think are on the ships right now. You don't have the glowing version, but yeah. The light kind of hits the front here in a moment, so you can kind of see. That's clearly the Mustang wings, but that front is a Hornet front. It's like an F8 or an F7 fuselage. So it's like a Hornet mixed with a Mustang. And then you see the engines are the Buccaneer engines. Because we know that's a great ship because look at this. 2019, baby. That is a 1-for-1 of the Shiv. That's a Shiv. Engine, the greebling. So they have had the Shiv in a complete form since 2019. They didn't sell it until 2025.
You can take away my spaceship.
Spaceship.
You can take away my space suit.
Suit.
You can even take away my space lasers.
No pew-pews.
But you can never,
ever
take away my space game.
Wild_Lee_Coyote just resubscribed for 6 months. Is Grace going to do anything bigger than the Shiv?
Probably if CIG sells them, they will. If they sell well, I should say. Thank you for that 6 months of support. You're very important, public, very impressive, Mr. Any pedestrian. This is your fault. You're drinking out. Trust and cheers in chat, y'all. Trust and cheers. We know all of the Van Duel clips. Like the versions of the Scythe and the Glaive. All of those need to be in Star Citizen. They're in Squad right now. Assuming we now have a heavy and light fighter from Gray's, the Mustang one must be the medium. That would be my guess. Yeah. In my opinion, Star Citizen is completely losing its art direction with its ships. The artists who designed the old ships have long retired from the studio or from doing outsourced work for them. All the new ships are being produced from random artists they acquired now. I don't disagree. And that's kind of what they've always been. Though the problem isn't with the design, because the one thing I will tell you, Don, and this is going to sound awful, but CIG sells these ships. They sell more of these ships than they've ever sold in the past. So there's no reason why they wouldn't continue to make these ships. The biggest problem isn't the design in terms of its looks, in my opinion. The biggest problems are just the design in terms of what it's designed to do in game. It's because a ship can look great as it can look amazing and then play like ass and nobody wants to use it. Well, now they're literally selling old ships they made years ago and making it seem like they just made them. I don't think they're not really saying like they just made them. They definitely had to update them because I guarantee you can't fly any of these ships in Squadron. So they had to like update the controls and they had to update like how the ships fly in Star Citizen. They had to import them into Star Citizen. They had to make them work with all of the Star Citizen functionality. It's not just like a copy paste, we're done sort of situation. There definitely was more to it, but yeah, it is basically whatever we have on hand, we should sell it. But that's not something new, y'all. That's been around since forever. Like the ATLS, I guarantee is a Squadron vehicle. It's a vehicle that's in Squadron for some background purpose or for some mission. They just pushed it to Star Citizen so they could sell it. They've been doing that forever. Make a ship in Squadron, sell it in the PU. Hey, Chops. So, let's do the initial review. I got to do a ship, a first impressions thing with X, as I'm sure at some point, unless X is going to get Elwood for it. So this is going to be a capsule, so be prepared, chat. Ahoy there! Welcome to another capsule. That's right, capsule. A small segment of my office hours live stream that I do on Thursdays at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. We'd love to have you join us live at twitch.tv/theastropub, youtube.com/theastropub live. So, what are we talking about today? Well, this is a first impressions video. We're going to take a look at the recent released Basher. I've got one. I'm going to pull it up so that we can take a look at what exactly is the Basher itself. So, 2 moments. All right. So, I have the ship in game. Let's take a look. Now, generally, the Basher is a ship that doesn't have a lot of guns. I'll say that right off the bat. It only has 6 size 2s, but it is also a very small ship. It is tiny compared to what it should be, for sure. There it is. I'm breaking up. Anybody else having issues? Okay, let me just restart this then. It's the recording. I just gotta I gotta change the recording, and I don't think I can do that. It's on CIG. I may have to completely shut down the stream and restart it, so. We'll give it a few moments. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna have to restart the computer, or restart the stream. Don't go anywhere. If you're on YouTube, I'll have it'll be a different video here in a moment. Be right back. Oh, I was able to come back on YouTube? Nice. There is a storm in my area, but it's because I changed the settings. So when I'm trying to run the game and I'm trying to also run the and record, I record at a high render. I'm recording at like I'm streaming and recording at 1440. So I'm recording at 1440 and streaming at 1080. The game, the computer glitches up. It can't handle that whole side. Recording at 1440 and streaming at 1080. The game, the computer glitches up. It can't handle. Am I desynced on YouTube? It got better? With a camera delay. Do I have a camera delay on Twitch? So there's no camera delay. I'm good now? I have a camera delay on Twitch. So there's no camera delay. Okay, yeah. I'm seeing no camera delay anymore. It's resynced. Okay, good. Okay. All right, let's try it again. 3, 2, 1. Ahoy there! Welcome to another Astropub capsule. That's right, an office hours capsule. A small section of my office hours live stream that I do on Thursdays at 5 p.m. Eastern, or 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. Would love to have you come join us live on twitch.tv/theastropub and youtube.com/theastropub live. This is a ship review, a first impressions of the Basher. The Basher just recently came out, and I wanted to do a quick little overview of the ship to go over its details and components, what it's good, what it's bad for, and I'll probably do something similar over on the Inforunners when that comes out if we can. So with that being said, let's look at the ship in game right now. Hopefully this isn't causing any problems. It doesn't look like it is, but... So this is the Basher. It is very, very small. In the video, they showed it compared to the Merlin. It is very similar in that, like, it is almost Merlin sized. There are no component bays on it. It does have some... Where are you? There's the refuel valve. Where are you? Here it is. Weapon rack. And this is storage. So it has a little bit. What's the maximum storage on it? 650 KSEU. Okay. Not too bad. But there's no actual components on it itself. The big thing about this ship is that it mostly has large amounts of small guns. It has 6 size 2 guns, and I think it has 4 size 2 missiles, or 4 size 2 or size 1 missiles. Let me take a look at this in the landing. Can I not see it here? Okay. Let's store it and pull it out so we can take a look at it real quick. It will not fit in a T. Louis. That is, but it will fit on a Carrack apparently. So that's an important thing to note. Is that it can fit into some small spaces. Now, it does cost 100 USD for the Warbond edition, 110 non-Warbond. So it's about the same classification as a Gladius for a much worse ship in terms of that. It is apparently a light fighter. Okay. Vehicles. Raise Basher. So, you can actually unequip the crane. I have the 1 livery. It has size 1s. All size 1s. Yep, all size 1s. And then, yeah, it has 4 sized 1 missiles. And, of course, 6 size 2 weapons. Let's pull back out and take it for flight. My initial thoughts on it, based off of what I've played around with already, is that it has decent maneuverability. It has decent speed for its size. But it's clear that this is really, I would say, less of an actual ship for Star Citizen and more a ship for Squadron that you're supposed to shoot at. Yeah, it's this is definitely not within the range of a Gladius or an Arrow or a Wolf. Like, this is interesting, but I don't think it's got the value the same way. It's a ship roster filler. It's the cynical part is to say it is a ship that CIG built for Squadron, for you to kill in Squadron, and they just said, why don't we sell it? Yeah, it's an enemy ship. I do like how it's got the Drake operating system. Let's speed's pretty decent.
Landing gear down. Landing gear up.
SCU is about 219, 220 meters per second. So, okay in terms of speed. Let's turn this into quantum. Let's see what it's looking like. About 1180 meters per second. It even looks like it, like a classic enemy ship you'd see. You're 1.29 million quantum fuel, so. Yeah. It's hard to sit here and justify this, quite honestly. It does not feel as nimble or as good as even the Wolf. It feels a little sluggish, actually, in comparison to those ships. And for a ship that's, for a thing that's supposed to have a lot of firepower, 6 ties 2s really isn't that good of a firepower ratio. It can take on a couple of other, maybe lighter ships, but again, this is a filler ship. This is a ship that's like, hey, let's throw this out there. It's really hard to justify this. And it does have some bugs. I will say that I was talking with X last night, and he was having trouble on some of the stations where it wasn't, where it spawns in like the smaller hangars. That it would clip into things and have problems like that. So, I'm going to land it and kind of walk around it a little bit more. But generally speaking, it's a fine ship, but it just being fine is difficult to like justify with it also being like 100 USD. The ships that cost around the same price as it are better, that do the same role better. It's $100. That's below. And it's kind of weird that this is $100 and something like the Starlight is $55. It just doesn't make any sense to me. It just like logically, like the Starlight is infinitely a better ship in terms of its usefulness compared to this. The Hawk is a better ship than this. The Hawk has what? It has lower guns, size 1s rather than size 2s, but it's more maneuverable. It has actual, like, bounty hunting capabilities. It also has an EMP. $100 gets you a buck with better guns, that too. Getting the typical Star Citizen issues. Now, I will say, 4.9 has not really, I've not really seen a lot of problems, and I haven't heard a lot of problems, though I've also heard people saying it's still as bad as 4.8 and still has some issues. This is not a good sign. attempt. Is 110, please stop throwing war bond prices around. I said earlier that it was 110 war bond. Or 110 non-war bond. There we go.
Landing gear down. Landing complete. Engines offline.
All right. Final verdict on this thing. It's a hard to recommend ship. The ships that are similar to it do what it does better in every way. There are more beneficial ships. The only reason to get this would be the look, if you really like that junkyard aesthetic. But it's really hard to recommend with this. So, what's the final verdict? It's a pass. I don't want to shit on CIG's work. Whoever made this put a lot of time and effort into it. There's a lot of cool aspects to it in terms of artistic aspects. But as a game ship that you're going to fly around and use, there's really no reason to buy this ship. Even in game, there's really no reason to buy this ship. Until they do a major pass overhaul in terms of weapon balance and lots of other things, this is very much a sort of better left on the cutting room floor sort of thing. I still have a theory that this is a squadron ship that they've simply imported into Star Citizen. You know, there's more to it than just importing it. It definitely needs some modifications to make it work. But generally speaking, yeah, I wouldn't buy it. So with that being said, hopefully you enjoy this. I want to hear your thoughts down below. What's your thoughts on the Basher? You like it? Do you not like it? Do you want to see more Gray's Market ships? And of course, as always, if you did enjoy this, hit that follow button. Hit that follow button. Like the video, subscribe for more content, and hit the bell icon to be notified when these release. I do these live on Thursdays at twitch.tv/theastropub, youtube.com/theastropub live, where we talk about Star Citizen lore, news, and more. Yak stream with all the folks here in chat. So I'd love to have you join us. Thank you for watching. And like I say every time, hope to see you someday in the black. It's a good asset for the game, not a user. Yeah, it's should have never been sold. It should have just been added into the game as a ship you can pick up. I just don't like the Reaver aesthetic, but really couldn't justify buying the cash. Yeah. It has potential. I don't see it. Like, the problem is where the current balance of the game is very different from where it should be. A swarm of 15 NPCs in this would be fun to shoot at. Yeah, like like a lot of ships in Star Citizen that are sold for players, they feel like they'd be better as NPC ships. The T. Louis is a great wave defense ship where you have to deal with like a T. Louis and then other ships coming in to fight you. And in the meantime, the T. Louis is deploying snub ships to come after you. So you have to like deal with those snub ships, but you also want to deal with the T. Louis. Like a lot of the design of CIG ships can be boiled down to player ship, aka hero ship, and NPC ship, aka chaff. Artistically, it's kind of cool. Functionally, shit at the moment, and priced outrageously. Yep. Now, do I think it'll actually do well? I think it'll sell fucking phenomenally because people like the aesthetic. So I'm trying to figure out if these Gray's Market ships for hunting space whales with harpoons and blades on them, but harpoons don't actually work. They're just aesthetic. The harpoons are an aesthetic. It's an art piece. I don't know where people are getting. There was that some people have been messaging me like, "Hey, check out this model of the storm wall," and I'm like, there's been models of the storm wall in the game for a while. I don't know if this is a new thing or not. It's even a saturated game, yeah. Hey, Paul, speaking of harpoons, guess what was seen in the tech preview? Was the Stormwall actually seen in the tech preview? Okay. That might explain what's next in terms of the animals, but there's no real reason to have the storm walls other than to be aesthetic, unless there's some sort of purpose for killing them. But yeah, it's the storm walls have had animations and styles since 2022 or 2023. However, Siege of Orison needs work. Yeah. You're supposed to procure resources from it back while alive. Is it part of Siege of Orison? I didn't remember that. I'll be right back. Well, after this, we'll do another capsule for the Roadmap Roundup. Okay.
Weapons free, y'all.
Genesis.
Drugs.
Mission complete. Burrito I eat. There you go.
Everybody and his dog calls himself an outlaw.
Stand by for Titanfall.
I love democracy.
Genesis. Genesis. Barcelona. Barcelona.
Good news, everyone! Mission complete. I'm pilot. Burrito. I eat. There you go.
I'm just an old-fashioned cowboy.
Mission complete. Burrito. I eat. There you go.
Barcelona! 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 Barcelona!
Turn it off. They're protected, so I wouldn't be surprised if their mission will be protected from poachers. Okay. All right. We're reaching the end of the night. So let me pull up the monthly report. Or the roadmap roundup. And get started from there. Nah, there's not a lot to talk about. We're in the doldrums. There's not a lot of good shit, really. We're really not going to get another patch until the middle of August, so. I haven't played Darkside Skatari, no. Nah, we're just in the summer. Lol, people keep saying that because CIG has always done this in the summer. Last year was sort of like a weird oddity where they didn't do that in the summer. Because they released like Lazarus or not Lazarus. They released Onyx last summer, like last August. But every summer before that has been CIG just sort of fucks off after June, and then we don't see really progress until August, September again. Which, surprise, surprise, July fucking sucks. June was sort of meh, and July sucked. It's just kind of meh as well. How big of a deal do you think VR will be for Squadron 42? It's a niche. All for of the built-in excuses for CIG? It's not really built-in excuses. It's more of here is what CIG has done in the past, and they're doing it again. So don't, if you see a fish swim upstream, a specific type of fish swim upstream the same time every year, and you see it happen again, you don't assume that the fish is going extinct. To count Chris Roberts and team out from the in terms of like company still existing, being like, oh yes, the Star Citizen is going to shut down anytime soon when they're making record profits. Like, yeah, no, I wouldn't say Star Citizen and Squadron 42 or Star Citizen and CIG are like going to collapse anytime soon. 90 days tops, right? No, that's my point. When you see a pattern that happens, and that pattern is frequent enough, just because it looks bad doesn't necessarily mean that it's a sign of the end times. It's because they always have to do a complete patch to fix the issues in Invictus, and I have a sneaking suspicion, which is hard to denote because we don't have all the records for it, and we never will. But I would guess that June, July, and August are the biggest times of the year that CIG has vacation requests, next to December and January. Because that's the summer period for kids that get off school. So if their parents... if they have kids, then they want to be around for their kids, or go on vacations with their kids. And with the winter, it's, family times and that kind of stuff. That's cope. They can just deny those requests. Yeah, they could, but then where else would they take their leave, Yeti? June is their biggest, May is their biggest month of concurrency. It's also one of their biggest sales of every year. So it's more likely that CIG would deny the vacation requests between February and May than it would be between June and August. And then what's the next big sale? November. So September, October, November probably are when you're going to deny those vacation requests. So the best time to take vacation, when you're least likely to have it denied, is probably December and January, or June and July. I don't know how that's code. That's just logic, basic reasoning. UK has some decent labor laws that protect employees. They can't do bullshit they do in the US. Too bad not everyone in CIG works in the UK. Some of them work in Canada, some work in the United States, some of them work in Germany, and that's not all the same. And on top of that, if you're working at a video game company, you're already making less money, and you're working for either like the love of the game or maybe for some benefits or whatever. That's they probably have a revolving door of talent, so it's not about feelings anymore. Not that I've seen in terms of like the actual development of the game. They don't really have a revolving door of talent. I think you're coping because you want to see CIG fail. And it's always important if you want an actual, like, to actually look at what's going on, is to set your own feelings aside and actually look at what you see and look at the patterns. I'm speculating. I don't know anything. I do want to see them fail. So yeah, you're coming at it from a perspective of anything that's a sign of CIG failing is a sign that CIG is failing, even if it's not 100% true. I'm debating on whether to do roadmap roundup because it's literally just the fucking like lever action rifle. They need to fail. I don't think there's anything about needing to fail. I don't think their current business model will actually function much longer. I think, especially as we head towards the release of Squadron, they're going to have to start changing something. And I don't think they have the expertise or the desire to do so. So y'all can pray to the gods that CIG fails all you want. I'm not betting CIG failing in the next 6 months. That's a losing bet. Well, that sounds logical, but the whales consistently hold the line and say, "Hold my beer," as if, or as the young folks say, "Understand, bet." So here's the thing. It's sort of connected to the lore video that I've been doing recently for the Patreons, which will be available for everyone next month. When things start to fail in a structural way, it doesn't happen all at once until it does. Things erode, things break down, and things that happen now cascade into things that happen in 2 to 3 years down the road. The butterfly effect kind of thing. And those cascading effects are hard to predict, but in hindsight, they're usually easy to see. And so it's impossible to know exactly when CIG is going to fail, because eventually they will fail. It may take 2 years, it may take 20 years. We don't know. Every company eventually gets bought, folded, closes, gets turned into something else. There are no companies, or not many companies, that are the exact same things they were from the 19th century here in the 21st century. There's some similar companies, and there's some companies that have the same name and have been passed down from generations, but they're not always the same company. Yeah, that's for sure. I'd rather be working in CIG as a game dev than Microsoft or anywhere else. But that's one of the reasons why I leverage the critique I do, is that I'm concerned that in the long run, 2, 3, 4 years from now, CIG is setting up problems that I don't think they can handle. And because they're not looking into it or investing time and energy into it, because they're too busy firefighting, they're creating their own, they're creating the ecosystem for their own failure. Like Sony, for example. Sony is a great example of this because Sony is betting that people don't give a fuck about physical discs so that they can make more money. Like for them, physical discs cost them money and they act as a secondary market to drive down prices. But when they have a captured walled garden audience, they can charge whatever the fuck they want to. And they think that because they're Sony, they have the right to do so. Now, will that affect Sony's sales right now? Probably a little bit. But in the long run, Sony's probably going to do fine because most people don't give a shit. But will they give a shit in 2027 or 2028 when the PlayStation 6 comes out? They might. Especially if there's a competitor that says we're still doing discs. So that's a great example of Sony is setting themselves up for a possible major blow that could hurt them, if not cripple them entirely. After taking, just simply because they're doing this as a calculated risk and they think that they can end up coming out on top. They might. But it really depends on the appetite of consumers and when the PS6 comes out. They already can't handle the mess they made, the backlog of tech debt. I'm still hesitant to call the whole thing tech debt. It's not necessarily tech debt in the sense of like, all these legacy systems need to be overhauled, and more of a tech debt in the sense that all of these legacy systems need to be replaced. And they're now load-bearing systems that are causing more problems than they originally were and will. The fixes to these legacy systems are basically more band-aids and duct tape than they are code. Also, Sony's an example for changing. They're not originally a video game developer. They made electronics like TVs and VCRs. Nintendo is really, really old, but when they first started up, they weren't making video games. They were making child's toys. They were a toy maker. Yeah, but think of the engagement. For what? I don't get it. CIG 8, your crafted P8 SMG? It's not surprising. I'm sure all my crafted shit's gone too. They need to grow a pair and do what needs to be done, whether that's adapt to a new market or overhaul the systems. But that won't get them money, and then they'll fail faster. I think there are ways through that CIG could map that could both improve the game quality and actually release a decent game. Maybe not the game everybody wants it to be with 1.0, but a fun game. But the longer CIG takes to decide on those paths, the more those options shrink. And unfortunately, most of those options do require substantial overhaul of their systems internally as developers, which would hurt some of their progression. Hence why I said they need to grow a pair. We'll see how everyone feels when 410 comes out, or when, Squadron 42's announcement happens, when people come back from the big SquadCon event, or when the November sales comes out and has the Galaxy is released. We'll see how people feel then, because typically what happens is the morale goes back up towards the end of the year as more cool things are announced. They could license them out, but if they want to die off, it will. Blu-ray isn't the issue. The reason why Sony is getting rid of physical discs is because, not because of Blu-ray, but because of because when you make a disc for a game, even multi-disc set, that disc set is sold at a retail location. And those retail locations will have overstock of those discs inevitably, which means they'll have to drive the price down to try to remove the overstock of those discs. So the longer a game is out, the cheaper it will get until it reaches a certain point where the price will go back up because it becomes rare. If that happens, then Sony is stuck with a digital game environment which they have to compete with their own physical games. If they have to compete with their own physical games, then they can't sell it at a higher rate. Thus, they make more money because it doesn't cost them as much money because they don't have to make the physical items. And on top of that, they can set whatever prices they want to in their closed ecosystem of the PlayStation Store. Because, you can't buy PlayStation games on the Microsoft Store for the PlayStation. You can't go to Steam and buy PlayStation games. So the only place you can buy PlayStation games with PS6 will be on the PlayStation Store, which means there will be no prices other than Sony's. They basically have a monopoly on that. Just make physical more expensive, done. But that also adds more overhead. It costs more. It adds more cost to them. It's not just that it's a twofer. It's not just that they can sell more. It's that it doesn't cost them as much to sell more. Sony also won't have to try and support legacy games. That's the other thing, is that they no longer have to support your PlayStation 2 games on your PlayStation 6. So they can completely remove that aspect from their game libraries and from the game console, and they can do other stuff with it. They can't make physical more expensive once the retailer pays for pays it for it. The retailer has total control of the price. They do, but they also would have to price it at a degree where they can still make a profit. The end goal worldwide is full control over every dollar that is spent. Yeah, that's what Sony's looking for. They want a monopoly. They want to make sure that they want to become the Apple of video games, where everything you get for your PlayStation is going to go through Sony and only Sony, and you have to go through their app store. You have to go through there to get their physical items, that are accessories for their consoles. They want to walled garden PlayStation. Sony wants a monopoly, but I don't think gamers do. In the end, the customer is the one who decides. That is correct. And like I said earlier, this could pay off for Sony. It could not. Right now, it's not paying off for them at all, but there's a difference between the terminally online gamer on like Twitter and the average gun and ball gamer. Seems pretty myopic. I don't always count corporate suits as the most long. They don't have the most. I don't know how to put this. Long sight. They're very nearsighted. They don't really think in the future. They think in terms of quarters, not decades. Yeah, foresight. Thank you. All that the Sony executives are seeing is more profits, more control, more control over what they have, which means more decisions on their side, which means they control the profits, not the other way around. Maybe the next step is closing the store for Sony? No, that would make no sense. They wouldn't be able to sell them. People in roles generally only look 2 to 4 years ahead, produce results for that time, get the bonus, promotions, job skip. Yeah. For the retailer. Yeah, but I don't think you're going to get rid of the retailers. There'll always be markets. There still is markets for like Nintendo 64s and GameCubes. You know, the PlayStation 1s and PlayStation 2s still have, like retro game stores and that sort of thing. There'll always be that. It just you wouldn't have GameStops as much. I guess if they sell enough rich kids, you're saying 2 rich kids, but my thought is just people selling rich kids on the open market. I don't want to be like the super downer guy, because we've talked about this in the past, but we are entering an age of video gaming where video gaming is a niche, expensive hobby. We might still see the ball and gun gamers exist, but it's becoming less and less. It's becoming less and less likely, especially as consoles are likely going to be costing well over $1,000. I don't think the goal of you will own nothing and love it is going to work, because people are too paranoid about that sort of thing. But yeah, we have been in the gaming dark ages since 2021, 2022. The AI bubble will burst. Yeah, there's no way the prices can stay up as the way they are. Eventually, the market will correct itself, and the people selling the shovels and pickaxes in the gold rush will eventually have to turn away from that. They won't be able to make that money forever. That's always the important thing to mention, is that just because shit's bad now and will be bad in the near future doesn't mean it's going to be bad forever. Then hopefully, once all of the companies that will crash and burn, we'll be left with a handful of companies that know what they're doing, and a bunch of independent companies and new companies that take the places of the older companies that will learn from the mistakes of the past. We are in the end times. I will give you this. This is, as a historian, I love this analogy because it puts into perspective a lot of things. Most of us on the planet Earth have been through at least 2 apocalypses. COVID was an apocalypse. And to a lesser degree, the GWAT was sort of an apocalypse. But definitely COVID was an apocalypse. And the thing about apocalypses is we think of them as these events that end everything, when in reality they're more of a transformation. You move from one time to another time. And human beings have been going through apocalypses, sometimes on like 20-year scales, for thousands of years. So civilization as we know it has existed for 5,000 years at this point, going through multiple apocalypses, and we're still kicking around. Now, these are minor apocalypses in the grand scale of things, but they're still apocalypses. Lots of people died, lots of things changed. So gaming is about to go through an apocalypse. It's about to have a massive shed of companies. Lots of people will never be able to make video games again who grew up wanting to make video games. Gaming will become more expensive and will retract a little bit in terms of who can and can't play. But it's not going to go away. It's already survived one apocalypse with the in the 80s. It'll survive this apocalypse. From the tech podcast I listen to, they have almost 10 years of runway for AI. I think that's optimistic. I think the folks in that tech podcast are probably too close to the problem. Based off of the current financial situation, 10 years is very optimistic. You're probably more looking like 2 to 3. No one knows what's 10 years in the future. Anyone who says that is fucking lying to you. It's easier to look at like the 6 to 12 months, and a little bit harder like when you get beyond that, but yeah. Oh God, I think you're forgetting the true value of the goose. The goose is a factory. Fucking love SoftBank. SoftBank is great. Oh, I forgot that crazy Japanese motherfucker who runs SoftBank, but it's so great. That's an interesting take. I remember in 2000, my dad, I was young at that time, but my dad was having a conversation with one of his business partners. And his business partners were telling my dad at the time that my dad was like, this boom can't go on forever. The dot-com boom was going to end, and this is not something that can be self-sustaining. And his business partner, or he was like a client, I think, of my dad's, but they were friends who were both in business, like, was trying to tell my dad, no, you don't understand. This is a paradigm shift. It's free money forever, baby. You just have to get with the times. And the bottom fell out of the market within like 3 months of that conversation. Yeah, there has to be a real return on investment, and there is no return on investment yet. There's a reason why everyone's trying to dump their IPOs. They're trying to dump their IPOs so they can dump their stock, sell it, and fuck off. What is SoftBank? So SoftBank, all right, I'm not going to go into too much detail, but SoftBank is this wonderful investment bank which invests in basically everything that they think is the future. Sometimes they hit fucking gold. Well, they'll invest in some crazy pie-in-the-sky idea, like a couple of $1 billion, and they make, or like a couple $1 million, and they make like $1 billion in the return. And wonderful is in quotation marks. I mean that they're absolutely insane. And how they're still afloat is pure luck. Like, for instance, SoftBank invested in Uber during the only time period that if you invested in Uber, you would lose money. But they were a huge investor into AI. And I think OpenAI's, they're a huge investor into OpenAI. And their CEO did like an investors meeting. I can't remember what it was. It was a big meeting of all of the investors and shareholders in SoftBank. And it was this fucking crazy slideshow that was trying to use the goose that laid the golden egg metaphor. And it just goes off the rails where like the goose has no value, but the eggs have value. But really the goose has value because it has the potential to lay 70 more golden eggs. And so the goose itself is not actually a thing that makes value. It's a factory for golden eggs. And it's just this weird ass, like, like tangent on using the goose that laid the golden egg as a metaphor for SoftBank is the goose that laid the golden egg, and the golden egg is super intelligent AI. You really got to look at the slide deck, the slide deck at least online, and it looks insane. Like, I get the analogy. I get what he's trying to say, which is like, hey, we may lay some duds every so often, but we have the potential to lay lots more. Which is why you got to invest in us so we can create super intelligent AI. But yeah, the way it's structured makes no goddamn sense, and it seems off the wall. It's a joke in anti-AI circles. It's been passed around a lot, and so a lot of anti-AI folks are just like, what the fuck is this man on? I always forget the name of the CEO, but I think SoftBank is a Japanese bank and the kind of the investment bank. So yeah. So with no golden egg, the SoftBank is just a goose at this point. Masayoshi-san, yes, yeah. Yeah, that's the thing, is that Masayoshi-san is way over leveraged on AI. Like, he invested so much money and they're not getting any money back. So basically SoftBank is about to implode. But he still believes that he personally has been put on this earth to create super intelligent AI. That's his only purpose. Which is something you definitely don't want to tell your investors who are only there to make money. There will be a culling of AI companies, but the hardware will still be useful after the boom ends. It has to be repurposed because a lot of the hardware that's being used is only good for AI, and it'll be really difficult for people to take the old AI GPUs and turn them into something useful for some other purpose. You know, like a shovel is good for a lot of different purposes rather than just mining gold. But the GPUs that NVIDIA and AMD are producing for the GPU or for the AI gold rush will have to be replaced in a couple of years, and they also don't have a resale value. Yeah, it burns out really fast, yeah. Do I think NVIDIA will go belly up? No, they'll survive. They'll just have a massive contraction. NVIDIA has too many, let me put you another way. LLM AI is not going anywhere. LLM AI is here to stay. What it will do, nobody has a clue right now. But it is currently not the thing that they're trying to push it. Yeah, the thing about LLMs is that they have to scale at the rate of demand, and they're way too high scale, and there's not enough demand for them. Basically, LLMs will either get more expensive, which will drop a lot of the demand off, or they'll get more efficient so that they can meet demand, but they will not be at the scale that they are now. No, they address different different problems. Well, one of the things that there's an interesting technology, and this is sort of a tech thing, that that companies like AMD and Intel were pushing for a while before the AI boom really went out, is God, I need the. Someone just said they're trying to get kids hooked on AI girlfriends, boyfriends. Then they'll start charging. I need this audio cue. Oh, let me pull it all the way up.
Don't date robots.
Brought to you by
the Space Pope.
Need that as one of the one of the audio cues. But one of the interesting things is that the push that was going before the AI was that AMD was hoping to get their CPU technology to the point where CPUs could replace GPUs on lower-end gaming PCs. So effectively, what they were hoping to do was to get higher amounts of performance with their graphics engines or their graphics stuff for their that's integrated with the CPU, to the point where low-end graphics cards would be obsolete. Not necessarily high-end, but like lower-end. I found it interesting, because I could also see that being the future of gaming as well. You guys are missing the forest for the. My name is Paul, Berserker One Batman Show, your humble host and space bartender here at the Astro Club. Your space bar at the end of the universe. Sit back, relax, enjoy the show. We got a good one for you. Okay, Oddcon, you had me until the end. We're talking about AI a little bit before, because we're going to wrap this up here. Oddcon says you're missing force for looking for the trees. Everyday models will shift to open source on local hardware. The frontier massive models will be consolidated providers and rented compute. But AI will keep getting more advanced for everyday and big question stuff both. And you'll be able to create a game much faster with a much smaller team. Fundamentally speaking, I have not seen AI do any of that. Everyone I've talked to who's utilized AI has effectively said it can do stupid things faster than a human, but you still need to check it. So it's simply offloading the task from creating something to spell checking, to being an editor, as it were, which still requires the same knowledge as it required for you to make it in the first place. But I do agree that we'll likely see LLMs become open source and local. I just don't think the scale that we're looking at for huge sources is financially viable, because it's a problem looking for a solution. There's no solution for it. It's just too expensive to replace humans with at this level of technology. And they're pushing too fast, too hard to try to get it done. And it's dumb at doing the stupid thing too. Yeah. AI is good about identifying cancer from low quality image. That's kind of cool. That's not LLMs though. That's machine learning. Most of the models that we see being used in medical field are machine learning. Like they're like designed for specific tasks. And machine learning is a great AI tool. Like people assume all AI is LLMs, and that's not the case. There's lots of different AI technologies out there which are really good and should be scaled up and used effectively. But the most common ChatGPT approach to AI is very different. The LLMs are used for medical imaging and other analysis. They literally go out of machine learning. You'd have to have a source for that because I have not seen that. Seen that sort of thing. From what I understand is that those are two separate branches of AI technologies, because machine learning is more about feeding data to solve a specific problem. And large language models are more of a feeding data so that the machine can understand more about the language. No, I have heard every time I have talked to anybody who've used LLM technologies for work, from coding to writing like letters to summarizing notes to like everything that people have been pushed for, it is not reliable and requires double checking. It simply is able to automate some aspects which are not they don't cost a lot of money. I think all the consoles are AMD APUs with built-in graphics now. It have been since the PS3. Oh, neat. Yeah, I know like a lot of computers are like, or laptops are like that, but from what I've seen, a lot of it, what they were trying to do, like especially with AMD, was just trying to turn their all-purpose CPUs, the ones you would get for your custom rig, and basically replace low-end GPUs. Because the ones that are built for like the PlayStation and Xbox are like built specifically to handle Xbox and PlayStation games, whereas so like it's easier for them to deal with the graphics and all that sort of thing. Whereas the all-purpose CPUs aren't always that good. So. It doesn't matter, Oddcon. If it still costs too much money to run and doesn't make enough money in return, then it doesn't matter how good they are. It can also code on the fly and accomplish things? A human being. And if 2 or 3 human beings can do the same thing that one AI can do, and doesn't cost nearly as much money to maintain or upkeep, then the human being is still more efficient than the AI. Humans have to poo, though. Yeah, but they don't, you only have to pay them to do their work. Chances are the objective is to drive down salaries for coders, but by saying AI is able to do similar for less. But at the same time, it still costs, those coders will still have to end up cleaning up AI's messes. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Can AI workers survive without water cooler talk and off-drama too? Can they survive without water? Just because a human needs to poo, an AI needs to evaporate a small lake to be able to do the same work as a human. A human doesn't need a small lake to survive. What's my 10-year prediction? No one knows anything in 10 years. Fucking anyone who's telling you they know what's going to happen in 10 years is selling you a fucking dream. All I can tell you is that the current model for what's happening cannot continue forward. Be it Star Citizen's structure, how they're releasing the game, how they're maintaining the game, how they're selling ships and making money, or artificial intelligence. Is Genesis Planetech coming? It's probably coming this year, but it's probably not going to be as much as everyone hopes it's going to be. At the end of the day, the technology that created LLMs will evolve. It may change. I don't think it'll ever become general intelligence as everyone's been hyping it up to be. But it'll have a purpose. It'll serve to make funny filters for video editing or audio editing. But like it'll join the ranks of several other AI systems that have existed for 20 years, like the YouTube algorithm and other such systems which are designed specifically to help end users get something they need to get done. Don't argue in circles. We'll see. The crash and consolidation of providers likely coming won't be the end of it. And I've seen it improve regularly to a staggering extent. No, I get you. I'm not trying to say like the AI is dead, but what I'm trying to say is that the scale upon which this AI is currently happening is not going to happen. And I do not think it's going to revolutionize video gaming, for instance. I don't think it's just not powerful enough. Everything I've seen it try to do with video games, even when it gets more powerful, is still shit. It's too expensive currently to scale properly to make enough money to replace the people it's supposed to replace. Have you met people in Walmart? The bar is pretty low for intelligence, in my opinion. I always argue that when people talk about intelligence, they mean the wrong thing. Because intelligence is simply the ability to learn. What you're saying is ignorance. People don't know the world as much as you hope they would. That's what I think is a lot of us miss is AI needs quantum computing. It needs both. It's going to take longer than we expect. It needs a lot of things. And as I said in my AI of Star Citizen video, a lot of AI development is simply philosophy and psychology. What is intelligence? How do we determine a general intelligence versus a non-general intelligence? What's super intelligence? What's sapience? And I am not equipped to answer those questions. I have my own theories on what I would consider a general or sapient intelligence. But none of the current systems would pass that. Because, like, animals can solve puzzles, and some animals can solve puzzles better than humans. Does that mean that animal is smarter than a human? No, it just means that animal can solve the puzzle better. This has been an intriguing stream. That's a diplomatic way of saying it. We're just sort of in a weird period for Star Citizen right now where like there isn't a lot of good news in the Star Citizen sphere of things. And because there's not a lot of news in Star Citizen things, we have to kind of do other things. And unfortunately, it just sort of sucks right now. Like I'm excited about a lot of things coming up. I'm looking forward to Ace Combat 8 when that comes out in September. I'm kind of looking forward to Star Wars Racer. That looks pretty fun. But there really isn't much else that are coming out this year, which I'm super excited for. And I don't see Star Citizen becoming suddenly an amazing playable game in the next 6 months. I see it probably getting better and some improvements here and there, but I don't see us as a community really being happy with what everything is. Oh, the Star XCOM Wars. I like that one. Yeah. Not Control Resonant. Can you play that on PC? I didn't play the original Control is the problem. I love, Cosmic Horror, but I never played Alan Wake 2, or the original Control. So I'm in sort of a weird position where normally if Star Citizen is sort of in a rut, I can go play other games. And I do want to tell you this, chat. I do plan on starting to do like Mondays. I'm probably just going to start doing like a medley of games while I'll go play some other game like Elite Dangerous or even like other more independent games which are not Star Citizen to sort of just get back to my roots of looking at cool space games and enjoying them. And mostly because, it's good to be diversify. Angels Fall First is what I'm looking forward to as well. That one's out now. I haven't seen the Star Wars Genesis mod collection, no. That might be interesting. Paul, you're supposed to be the specialist. And the specialist is telling you right now that I don't foresee CIG doing much before the end of the year. There just isn't anything here. I think originally there was plans for Squadron 42 to come out, but then they delayed it. So what you're seeing is CIG sort of planned ahead for a specific outcome, freaked the fuck out because of GTA 6, delayed it in order to give them more time, and then when GTA 6 finally announced, they went, oh fuck, it is coming out in November. Yeah. They're not using enough AI at CIG. They may be using too much AI at CIG, which would explain all of the bugs. Thanks, Alciner. There's also a Star Wars mod for Squad that's recently come out, which is pretty cool. But yeah, one of the things I want to kind of do is move away from pure Star Citizen content and start doing other things, and try to diversify a little bit more. I'll still do Star Citizen. As I've said, I will be here on this. If when the Titanic goes down, I will be on the deck when it goes down. But I don't plan on drowning in the waters. I plan on stepping off into a dinghy that I had built well before. By the way, did you dislike the Dash? I dislike it. I don't think it's a good ship. I think it's a ship designed as an NPC enemy in something like Squadron, and they just decided to sell it. Its price is far too high for what it gives you, and its maneuverability is kind of shit. And $100 to $110 is a lot of money to ask, especially in this economy, for a ship that doesn't really match with any of the other light fighters that exist. So it's a pass, man. It's just not that good. CG marketing needs to come to the concept that everything needs to be sold. They would, if they really are looking at things like engagement, if CIG just started releasing ships into the game just for free for people to buy or to earn, then without selling them for cash, you would have more engagement. More people would be playing the game. I noticed a few friends stream game backlog nights where they play multiple games recommended by the Discord community. I mean, that's effectively what I play. Like, there's a new demo out for a sort of Armored Core inspired game that I want to try out. There's a mech roguelike that I got recently that I want to try out. I'm trying to say. That sort of thing. Mech roguelike? What's that? So it's basically there's like these little campaigns. It's a co-op game where you play through this campaign, and as you play through this campaign, if you die, you get certain rewards or upgrades, and you until you complete the campaign, and you can use those rewards and upgrades to change your mech. Like, give it different legs, different torsos, different weapons. And as you go through these campaigns, you get better and better mechs that you can then accomplish more stuff. Let's do a 70 Days to Die community server. It's not, I mean, I like survival games, but I'd like to keep everything into the sort of space-themed stuff. Are you going to play Power World? No, I own Power World, but I'm not going to play Power World. The one thing I do want to start doing, though, is I do want to start playing games with the community. So, co-op games, survival games, that kind of stuff. So, that's one of the things I want to try to do on Mondays is sort of bring the community together, so it's not just me playing the game, but it's like us playing together. Either me and the league playing something cool, or the community as a whole coming together and playing something cool together. I got hooked on Pragmata when my account was shardlocked for almost a month plus. Plays great on my laptop. My desktop is down. Oh, I love Pragmata. I haven't beaten it yet, but it's great. I got to like 3 or 4 levels in. All right, y'all. I'm going to call it a night. Thank you for hanging out. Thank you for watching. Like I said, I will be releasing a Patreon video for those of you who have my Patreon for lore. Like the lore Patreon. I'm also working on a complete history of Aegis Dynamics. That won't be done until next week at the earliest, but that should be done next week, so I can release that out for those who want to see it. And I plan on getting at least 1 or 2 more videos out before the end of the summer for Patreon, which will then release later. So thank you for hanging out. Thank you for watching. And like I say every time, hope to see you someday in the black.